Fantastic. And so with that, it's about 6:04, and we're going to go ahead and call to order the District 1 Advisory Board meeting. Councilman Johnson is not with us at the present point in time, but he's expected to go ahead and join shortly. And so we will go ahead and proceed, and hopefully by the time we get into the meat of the meeting, he'll get a chance to go ahead and join us. So welcome, everyone. I hope everyone had a good Christmas and a Happy New Year. Why don't we go ahead and start off with an agenda? Anyone get a chance to take a peek at that? If
Yes.
so, fantastic. Can we take a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Fantastic. Thanks, Gabriel. Second from me. Any discussion on the issue? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye and/or raise your hand.
And if you'll give me 1 second here. Okay, you can put your hands out. See, everyone voted. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And our youth DAB members on the call too. Just want to make sure we acknowledge. Hi, Ruben.
That's awesome. Very good. And Camila, just because I wasn't able to go ahead and see that, I assumed that that motion passed.
Yes, 6-0.
Fantastic. Awesome. Seeing that, we'll go ahead and move on to the approval of the minutes. Did you guys get a chance to take a peek at those?
Yes.
I did too. And just as a general note, nice set of minutes. Camille, I suspect those actually take you a while. Good job.
Thank you.
Especially from the last meeting, all the discussion we had. So yes, definitely I echo that too.
Seriously. With that, any noted changes anybody saw? Nothing specifically jumped out at me. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second it as well. So with that, assuming there's no more discussion, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Camila, let us know when you get a count.
I have it.
Fantastic. And I'll assume it actually passed as well.
Yes, 6-0, and we have another DAB member. So now there are 7 DAB members present.
Hey, always good to have more than the minimum. All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and roll into staff reports. Wichita Fire Department's up first. And so I apologize if I don't see exactly who's going to go ahead and be addressing us, but thank you in advance.
Good evening. It's Michael Russell, Battalion Chief, filling in this district right now for somebody who's off right now. So I've tried to dig up some information, some statistics for the district for this month. And unfortunately, because of the holiday and some training that was happening, the folks that put those reports together for us were not able to get those done. We can share those at next month's meeting. As far as fire statistics, I do know it was a pretty busy month for December, though. Just an update. It looks like we are currently compiling a list of those folks that would like to be vaccinated for the COVID-19 virus. We're going to have a 2-week window to get our members vaccinated, everybody who wishes to participate in that. We're collecting the names of everybody that wants to be scheduled for the vaccination, and we should be getting those done within the next few weeks. So that was our big news for the day. So we're moving forward on that.
That's fantastic.
And if I would entertain any questions, if anybody had any, I apologize for not having any data for the district tonight.
Are you comfortable with, can I share this information Russell, are you comfortable with me sharing if it's emailed to me between now and when the DAB votes on the minutes, like how many fires per month and incidents? And I can share with the DAB members for them to review since we just both don't have it. 'Cause I typically get it emailed to me also.
Yes, I did speak with Kelly Zane, who typically in our investigation unit, who puts that material together, and he said he would be working on it tomorrow. So I can have him send it directly to you, if that would work. And
Yes, I typically get an email. I just wanted to make sure the DAB is okay, that I'll send it to you so it can go on the formal record before you vote in February for January minutes, if that sounds okay.
That sounds great to me.
And I see
Anybody
another
else?
hand nod.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
okay, and who would I send that to?
I'll get with you.
Okay,
So, Mr. Russell, I did actually have one question for you. This is actually related to, I think, a fire that was in District 2. But I've got a friend that actually lives over in, what set of apartments is that? That's just west of Webb Road and Lincoln or so.
9,000 East Lincoln.
Yes. So I think they had actually told me that the fire actually occurred maybe like 2 weeks ago, and she was very interested to go ahead and hear a report. But to tell you the truth, I wasn't exactly sure how long I should tell her it would normally take to go ahead and come out. Do you have any guidance?
Well, as far as the official fire report, that should be completed now and can be requested through the office through open records if they want an actual fire report. I could give you some details. I was at that fire. I was the incident commander, and I'd be happy to share any information that you would like to know.
Did they ever determine a cause?
That I do not know, unfortunately. Okay. So the fire investigation report I have not seen. So there's two different reports. There's the fire investigation report and then the actual fire response report that's conducted by our members that responded to fight the fire. I don't know that a cause was actually identified yet, but I would have to find that out for you.
Fair enough. Appreciate it. Anybody else have questions?
I have one really quick, and it might be a silly question, but are members of the fire department, I know you were talking about earlier with the COVID vaccine, they're not like required to get it. It's all optional for them?
Correct. Currently,
okay.
It's voluntary, yeah.
Okay.
Does it look like it'll have good participation though? Just from what you...
Yeah, the initial numbers I've seen are probably about 60% in favor of, and about 40% that are electing to pass right now.
Roger. Okay. Anybody else have questions?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, Ms. Lynn, is this a question for the fire department only at this time?
Oh, no. Okay. I didn't know what area we was talking about. Okay. Well, I'll wait. Thank you.
Very good. And sorry for that. I'll try and clarify. Any more questions for the fire department? And assuming none, Mr. Russell, thank you very much for your service, sir.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Yep, you too. So with that, we'll go. Well, I'm assuming that there's no more fire personnel to report. Is that accurate, Camila?
As far as I know.
Okay. So with that, assuming there's no more, we'll go ahead and move on to the Wichita Police Department, please.
Hey, how's everyone doing?
Doing good. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, no problem. Hope everyone had a good holiday. Hope you guys don't mind if I start and Mayor, my battery is about to die on my laptop. I had training today, so I've kind of had to jump over here and do this. I just wanted to wish everyone a good holiday. Unfortunately, the rest of the city, we kind of started off a little rocky. Already several homicides that our investigators are looking into. As far as the dispositions of those, I do know that we made some arrests. But we can look forward to staff reports from our PIO from those specific incidents. More of the neighborhood type things I wanted to talk about. You know, we had a really good round of snow. I unfortunately was not in town to experience it. I say unfortunately, but just remember that, you know, slow down. It takes plenty of time to get where you're going. It's nowhere it's worth getting if you're not getting there safe. When ERP is in effect, just remember that if there's not drugs or alcohol involved and the vehicles are movable, you can file a report. Most Quick Trips have our forms, and we can go that route. We'll try to make sure that we get all that taken care of, as hectic as it can be when weather strikes us. With the holidays in mind, a lot of folks I noticed driving through some of the neighborhoods, we tend to see a lot of different boxes of toys and presents that people get. You know, you get your nice big screen TV, but they leave the boxes out front. Try to fold those things up and dispose of them a little bit more discreetly. We don't want to, you know, calling card for anybody that might be driving through looking at houses to burglarize. So that's just something that's something I always actually have a chimney that I burn my stuff in. I'm glad the fire department's no longer here, but I just wanted to throw a couple notes out like that, and I'll defer over to Officer Mayor, Officer Stark.
I'll go. You can see I'm still at work based on the lights here in the middle of 13th Street. Patrol East did a coat drive around Christmas and had a very good turnout and was able to donate quite a few boxes of coats to area, you know, agencies and allies that kind of disperse that, you know, like Salvation Army and the Union Rescue Mission and Stepstone. You know, we were able to help quite a few places out. We had probably 5 or 6 car loads of patrol cars or Tahoes and pickups loaded full of boxes. Upcoming this month, department-wide, I believe we're sending about 50 officers to Washington for the inauguration. I will not be going. I don't know if Villegas is going, and Stark may or may not. I heard his team was going. Our biggest crime issue, and I was seeing on the notes from the last time, unfortunately, it hasn't changed. Larceny to auto and auto theft. It's that time of year where people want to warm their car up, and there's always somebody roaming the neighborhood looking for an opportunity. Officers Ditch and McElwain and Floyd have made videos about the larceny to auto and the easy auto thefts. They've been put out on Facebook. I've seen them. Was entertained by them, seeing some of my coworkers try to act. But it's great information, but unfortunately, it seems people still are not listening to that. In terms of the larceny to auto, we can ask you to help us by not leaving valuable things in your car. Don't leave backpacks, duffel bags, even if it's worthless to you. You know, it could be an empty bag that you use for laundry. Someone looking in the car doesn't know that, and they're going to smash the window or check the door handle and grab it and run. And you're still going to have to replace your window and make an insurance claim, and it's just not worth it. We can have an impact on 3 areas of crime. It's the bad guy, the victim, or the environment. In these cases, we only have control over our environment and our stuff. And I say ours, I mean like mine at my house, the way, you know, I have lighting and where I park and how I do things. There's steps you can take to protect yourself to make you a harder target, as opposed to making yourself an easy target. Like if you park in the darkest spot in your street and leave your doors unlocked, you're an easy target. There's people roaming the streets all night, checking door handles, looking for opportunities. It's unfortunate we can't catch them all, but we're just sadly outnumbered sometimes. And a lot of times the reports come in the next morning, so we don't even know about it while we're on patrol. Really, those are the main issues crime-wise. I keep seeing the stats about stay the same out of Patrol East, and I know they're very similar all over the city. And we need the citizens' help to battle that stuff. Stark?
He probably didn't hear you. You should talk to him as just call him Young Santa.
I was using the mouse on my wife's computer. It wasn't working very well on mine.
There we go.
I'm going to piggyback Mayor. We have the auto theft problem up north. Patrol North ran 2 special assignments the week before Christmas and the week before New Year's, both warming assignments. We came in early, super early. We issued about 40 flyers to running vehicles. Both of those were regular vehicles, and then remote start. The remote start, we just issued warnings saying they could still break in and take stuff, keep your stuff locked up. During the first assignment, we were able to identify an auto thief. He's now became a project of ours, so we're keeping an eye on him. He hasn't done anything recently, but we identified him that day. So auto thefts are up for us. All the other numbers are down at Patrol North. Some good things we've done. We did the random acts of kindness. I don't know if you saw it on Facebook, but we gave a wheelchair and a handrail to a gentleman down on the north end because his wheelchair was falling apart, and we came across him on a call, so we wanted to do something good for him. We also did 2 present and Christmas tree giveaways, 2 different families in need. They both had never had a Christmas tree before, so it was cool to see their face. But that's all I have up north. Nothing new to update beyond that.
I forgot to add Patrol East. I've been on a different assignment for 3 months, so I'm trying to catch up with my team. They've done some overnight assignments on some storage unit burglaries, and a particular arrest or contact has led to quite a bit of intel about who's doing it, how they do it, and where the stolen items are being stored. So hopefully we're about to take a chunk out of that portion of our crimes here in the city.
Hey, good deal. So first, I'm going to go ahead and ask whether or not there are any questions from the DAB of the officers.
I have a question. Can you hear me, Aaron?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. We were told that there was going to be a special assignment that ended, I think, right before Christmas, working to solve some of the murders that have been happening in Wichita, and just wondering if we have any feedback on that assignment.
Good question.
I'll speak to that just a little bit. We reallocated some resources from some different teams across the city, and really working with the homicide detectives. And I think of all, I'd have to double check the stats, of course, but of many of the cases that we've had, especially the more recent homicides, we've made arrests on several, if not all of them, as far as making an arrest or identifying a suspect. It's unfortunate that we continue to have this issue throughout the city. I know our community leaders have been reaching out for several months with especially the youth of our community. And, I think it's really good that we have a lot of new technology like the license plate readers and such that have really assisted in the solving of those homicide cases. We're having really good rates as far as clearance goes, really good arrests, and, we'll keep continuing to push and see if we can somehow curve this violent trend that seems to have picked up really, especially since about, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
And another quick, oh, I'm
that
sorry.
was actually where I've been. My other assignment, I was working with that unit during the day team, and the amount of information that they have is phenomenal. I was able to be on scene of one arrest for a homicide. We had the days, that was on a Tuesday. The Friday before, we arrested 2 people for multiple armed robberies. That Wednesday, they arrested 3 more for an armed robbery. So there's a lot of work being done. It's unfortunately a numbers game. Sometimes a lot of the offenders we're seeing now are juveniles, so they're not being held for every crime they commit. Actually, the scene I'm on now was a residential robbery, and once again, all the suspect descriptions are young males that people don't even estimate that they're out of high school, and it's really hard for us to target that because it's hard to find them. They don't have a home or a car or anything that we usually use to track them. And then even when we do catch them, they get released to their parents pretty quick, and they're able to go back out and continue committing more crimes before they face their court date.
And then one other question. So you said 50 officers are going to the inauguration. What capacity?
Villegas?
Yeah, a lot of the officers that are going to the inauguration will be there from Monday to Thursday on a rotating basis, just kind of providing site security and inspections. The officers that were selected to go are mainly officers that are part of specialty units such as community policing or from other areas within our department. We really tried not to take officers off the street. In fact, I don't know of very many, if any at all, that are actually response patrol officers. It's one thing, when you're asked to help with something like that, we all want to do our part. But the safety and security of our neighbors and our community comes first. So they try to take a lot of the, I guess, officers like community policing. I think there's some officers from upstairs, some detectives that are going. So we're really trying to balance and make sure that we keep everyone safe while also doing the work of kind of a bigger picture.
Yes, that's really cool.
It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. We've never been asked to come do this before, so I'm hoping that it'll be a really peaceful and good time, and we can welcome another president.
Maybe so. Any other questions from the DAB?
I do have a question. It's kind of aligned with what Lawanda was asking. In the homicides that we're seeing, you mentioned that it's adolescents that are committing these violences. Is that accurate? Is the trend more younger?
I'll let Meyer, if you want to speak to that.
There we go. Not necessarily all of the homicides. The ones I had a chance to work on were pretty varied. They were in different parts of town, different circumstances. Some of them were familial, some of them were fights at a party. A lot of the violence that we're seeing from the younger generation is the drive-by shootings, the wild stuff that they're not very accurate. Their intended target is broad, and that's the stuff that endangers all of us. That's when we're getting, young girls hit in the back while they're sitting in the car and getting paralyzed. That's the jump we're seeing in the younger crowd. Some technically juveniles and some just barely over the age of 18. There doesn't really seem to be a huge trend from one week to the next where the violent crime occurs. It keeps occurring, but it seems to be in different places if you look at the locations and the demographics.
As far as his ages go, I would venture saying, John, tell me if you disagree or not. I would say ages 30, 35 and below are the majority of the violent crime that we see in the city, most notably the homicides, the ones that kind of affect everyone.
Yeah, the cases I've worked and looked into and we conducted follow-up on, there were some drive-by shootings and robberies that was age 19 and down on several occasions. And then some of the homicides were that 26 to 35-year-old range. And I think one down on the south side was a couple of brothers, and they were in their 60s. Mm-hmm. So it can cover all ranges of ages. And I personally haven't seen a trend to where we worry with our youth getting involved in gangs doing the retaliation thing. There's talk of it, but I personally haven't seen any type of that activity. And so that's probably helps us that it keeps the numbers down because they're not doing what they say they're going to do on Facebook, luckily. But, in the 3 months I was on that unit, we were tracking down different people every week. There wasn't a repeat problem. There wasn't a repeat area, and not even really a repeat circumstance.
Okay, so with that, then I was wondering if it is younger adolescents, if that's a way to funnel into the youth. I'm not sure the name of the unit, youth outreach, that was just created.
Yeah, the unit that's
Juvenile Intervention Unit, and they have been tapping into all these conversations and working with the Youth Advocacy Council when it's identified as a teen that is not already arrested, I should say.
Right. Yeah, I think they're trying to keep them from going down that path, and the ones that are already a ways down it, I don't know that they're using their resources to mess with them and try to correct their behavior. Because, one of the officers was a school resource officer at West High that's on that team now, so he's very experienced with the youth. The other one, Danielle Watson, very experienced, smart guy. So if they say a kid's worth taking the time and taking a chance on, then I'd believe them. And on the other end of the spectrum, if they think someone's not worth all the time and effort they can put into them, then I trust their judgment on that. It's unfortunate that that's the case, but with a 4-person unit, they got to pick and choose who they go after.
Yeah. with the schools being let out and everything, and no one really having a solid structure, it's really hard to keep track of some of these kids and where they're going and who they're talking to. And, you know, this situation is completely unprecedented, and we're trying to problem solve every day to try to make it safer for everyone, really.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the DAB? If
I'm
not,
looking
just
at
from
the
the chat discussion, I think there's a couple of people that would be interested.
I'm looking at the chat, and has
Angela?
any graffiti been identified on the north side for young people, or anyone identified as the tagger?
No, I messaged her directly, but no, we don't have anything to identify them there. Where they're tagging, I've been trying to get cameras up on the church and everything else, and they're a little hesitant to do so. So I don't have the tagger of St. Mark's Church identified yet. The Red Bud Trail, we got cleaned up, but I haven't seen much on it since. Me and my partners, when it's nice out, ride it regularly to try to catch anything, and we haven't come up with anything either. So they're not identified.
Very good. Thank you.
This is Angelina. I posted in the chat. I know that 7:35 is on the agenda, but I think this may be an item for the police. So should I bring this up now or should I wait?
It's a Patrol South issue, and your CP officer is already involved, so I would prefer that you wait for open agenda.
Okay.
All right. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, officers, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, Aaron.
Very good. All right. So with that, we will go ahead and move forward, and we'll move to item number 3, Public Works and Utilities, please.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron Jansen, City Engineer. Camila, do you have the project list that you could show?
Yeah, do you want me to screen share or show it? Because I was ready to screen share.
Yeah, well, if you can share it, that way I can run it, that'd be fine. Whatever for you.
I'm pulling up screen share. Just made you a co-host, so then you'll be able to.
Are you still going to pull that up, or do you want me to, Camila?
I was going to let you pull it up.
Okay, sorry. Let me grab that real quick. I'm a little slow. So since the last time we talked to everybody, this time of year, you know, things are a bit slow. You know, with Kansas weather, we actually do get some opportunities for construction on current projects. But like with our outsourced pavement preservation program and some of our other major projects, we purposely aren't starting much work this time of year just because of the onset of winter. So I'll be quick if I can actually get this pulled up. Sorry. I'll be quick, I think, because there's not a lot that's changed. And so I'll just highlight a few things as we go through here, and obviously I'd be happy to answer any questions. So am I sharing now, Camila? Can you see that? Or, probably not.
Yeah, I don't see anything yet.
I found it too, so let me just hit share because technical difficulties.
If it's up now, if everybody can see it, I can do this.
This one's mine. Go ahead, it's up for my screen now.
Okay. And then I'll just tell you when we want to go down. Sorry about that. We are making good progress on the Aquatics Master Plan projects. Just as a quick recall, City Council spent a number of years working with park staff in particular and city manager's office on multiple projects, 6 swimming pool projects, 6 splash pad projects, total of 12 across the city. And 3 of them are under construction now. They'll be done and ready for the 2021 season. We'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that we have a 2021 season. McAdams swimming pool, Edgemore Park splash pad are coming along well. A lot of the bulk of the work is done. There's some things that we've got to do with coatings that are temperature sensitive that we'll need to do in the spring, but we'll be wrapping these up in March to April, so they'll be ready for the season. If you could go on down, Camila. Linwood splash pad is also in the works. You can go on to the next page. And also plan on to be done this spring. So I'll talk a little bit more about the overall aquatics master plan, but $22 million that the city council allocated for all of that work. Pretty cool stuff, I think, going on across the city. We're excited to get those done. A big project that we're still working on is improvement to 17th Street from Broadway to 135. We're widening that to a wide 3-lane road. A lot of commercial industrial traffic in the area. Also providing a pedestrian connection through there, especially for bicycles and pedestrians, but we will have on-street lanes, and then a wider path for pedestrians, particularly off-street. And that's going to fill in a missing gap between the K96 bike path that goes through Grove Park and the Midtown bike path that stops at 15th and Broadway and connects to the river. So it's progressing, it's slow. There's a lot of underground work, a major drainage component of that project. If you had a chance to be by, we've done quite a bit of the work adjacent to McAdams Park, including the plaza area where the Jackie Robinson statue will be. So it's all coming together really nice. If you can go on, and that's projected to be done here this spring also, if everything goes right. We've got a project getting ready to start up to convert Emporia to 2-way from Dewey to Central. We do have a contractor on board. They'll be starting work next week and plan to be done probably around April. And the main thing there is we've got to add signals for southbound, change the striping and the signage. But again, that'll change Emporia to 2-way from Dewey to Central. Really should help a lot with development in the area, current development and future development. As part of the project, we're actually removing the signal at 3rd Street. It should have probably never been put in. It definitely should not have been put in. We looked at data again and decided it wasn't warranted. So that's actually helping us out with the project to be able to use some of the signal equipment elsewhere on the project itself. As far as our outsourced pavement preservation program goes, 2020 program is effectively complete. We do have a little bit of work to do on Hillside between Central and 9th. There's one particular area there that'll get done next month. The 2021 program really hasn't started up yet because of the temperature constraints and a lot of the work that we do. Most of that work will start in the 2nd quarter. We are getting ready to open bids on a lot of those projects, and I won't go through that in detail. If anybody has specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them. All of this information is available on the city website, Public Works and Utilities section in the outsourced pavement preservation program. You can see specifically the work that's going on in every single district across the city, the work that's planned, what the cost distribution is of the total $11.5 million. Once construction starts, that'll be an interactive map to show where activity is on any one project. So you can go on down from there. And again, most of that work will start up here in the 2nd quarter as the weather gets better. Scroll down, please. I talked about the aquatics master plan. With each council member, we talked specifically about the work within their district. What this does is summarizes everything. Phase 1, all of Phase 1 and Phase 2 is under construction. All will be ready for the 2021 season. That includes everything but the College Hill Pool, Harrison and Plainview splash pads, those facilities. The College Hill Pool, if there's a 2021 season, will be open, and then it would still be open for 2022 with the new improvements. Harrison and Plainview splash pads don't exist, and they would be ready for 2022. I think I've just got a few more items, Camila, if you don't mind going down. We've had something on our list for a long time that many on this staff have been in part of the discussion is the 10th and 15th Street bridges at the Wichita Drainage Canal. And the reason why I wanted to mention it tonight is because the 10th Street Bridge, we've had closed for many years now. We finally have the funding in place. We will be removing that bridge in the next few months. So that bridge will be taken out. We'll close everything up there with the drainage canal, replace the curb and gutter at the end of each street, get rid of the ugly barricades so we can return those to the maintenance guys. 15th Street Bridge, we're kind of holding on. We had a recent inspection on it. It's doing okay. That bridge was built for stout, luckily, back in the 30s. So with the traffic that's on it, the minimal traffic, it's doing fine. We've had to do some things to make it safe for pedestrians, and we want to keep a close eye on that. But you know, as of right now, there's funding in the CIP in 2024 to make that a pedestrian bridge. As things progress here with the overall plan for McAdams, we'll stay in close contact with Councilmember Johnson and see what comes out of that, but that's our plan right now. And the last thing I had to mention was Douglas from Washington to Hillside, actually. We changed the speed limit from 35 to 30 miles an hour. The new signs are up. That became a smaller piece of a bigger picture that we're still working on with our downtown streets plan. But it was a good change. It was something I think we needed to do sooner. I'm glad we got it done now, and it'll be really good, especially if East High at some point in time is back in real school. So that was all I had. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Gary, what's your most exciting thing looking forward in the next year?
Well, I think there's several things going on from the big picture perspective, and I'll across the city, and I'll run through a few of them real quick. East Kellogg will be wrapping up in the next 4 to 6 months, and that's all the work on East Kellogg. We're pretty well done with the Webb Road interchange, but the work we're doing around K96 is progressing well and should be done by this summer. So that'll be good to get that back to freeway speed and open everything up. Needless to say, we've got a brand new baseball stadium that is set empty, keeping our fingers crossed that everything goes right, at least so there can be some limited capacity to be able to use that. Across the street, a couple things with the baseball stadium. We've got an item going to council next Tuesday for working on the NBC Museum, which is a part of the facility where the team offices are. That should basically wrap everything up with the stadium itself. We're starting work soon on the new transit facility across the street from the stadium to the west. Multimodal facility. We got a $14 million Federal Transit Authority grant for that. So we're working right now on starting on the design and hopefully be under construction maybe by the end of the year, but most likely probably in 2022. The two biggest things that not a lot of everybody sees, especially in this district, but construction is well underway on our new water treatment plant at 21st and Hoover. I think most people are aware that that's a $500 million project. It's projected to take about 4 years to construct, but that's something that's been desperately needed. Our current water treatment plant is approaching 90 years old, and we're doing everything we can to keep it going. So the next thing that's going to happen then is turning our attention to our main sewer treatment plant at the south end of town. We're working on the same type of funding model as we did for the water treatment plant, and the current rates, water and sewer rates that the council just approved, do include the work on that, which is probably going to be over $300 million. So between those two projects, we're getting close to approaching $1 billion in infrastructure improvements on the water and sewer side. But it's something that's been building up for some time based on what the ratepayers have been paying. Of getting to this point, so you need to make these capital improvements, and it'll be a huge benefit to everyone in the city for many years to come. So, you know, we, and then the one last thing I'll mention, whether you wanted to hear all these things or not, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. Construction will start on the North Junction this spring on the first phase. We were able to secure through different funding grant programs through KDOT and USDOT around $50 million in funding, which helped supplement funding that KDOT, City of Wichita and Sedgwick County had in already. So overall, that'll be well over $150 million project, and it'll take about 4 or 5 years to build, but we're finally going to fix all the problems with the North Junction. So if anybody travels through that area coming next spring, you probably want to start planning on an alternate route. But there's a lot of things going, a lot of exciting stuff. So I appreciate you asking.
That's really cool. Good to hear. Good news. Anybody from the DAB that has questions?
I have a question.
Get it?
On the Jackie Robinson statue, was that city funded or privately funded?
And council member may be able to answer better than me. I'm pretty confident that the statue itself was privately funded.
Yeah, the statue was privately funded. The little base for it was funded with the I think those were federal dollars, but
Yeah, the plaza area that's part of the street project, the majority of that street project was funded with federal dollars.
Okay, the majority of it, do you know how much was city funded, or is that something you'd have to check on?
Well, I could get you the information, and it wouldn't be a direct split. I mean, overall, that's a
Federal project?
overall it's a $9 or $10 million project, and we probably got about 2/3 of that covered with federal funding. I wouldn't be able to tell you as far as related to that plaza area what that split necessarily is, but I could get you the overall project numbers.
Okay, thank you. And is that part of the park still open to the public, or is it now a private situation?
That's all still public park.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
So my question is about the 10th Street Bridge. I was wondering, was there conversation around any future pedestrian walk there, or will it just be taken out?
Based on our conversations previously over several different times with the DAB and the neighborhood, we're planning to just remove it without pedestrian bridge there. And there was a lot that went into that. Looking at the proximity of crossings at 11th Street, you know, there's a new bridge, relatively new bridge at 11th with pedestrian crossings. 13th, 9th, and then if you keep going north through the park, 17th Street. And so we looked at over a period of time when the bridge was still open, pedestrian activity, vehicle activity, it really made the most sense for 10th Street to just be removed. Even providing a pedestrian bridge is costly. And our recommendation to the DAB and ultimately the city council when that decision was made was just to remove 10th Street. It's something we should have gotten done sooner. And so we're going to get it done now.
Very good. Any other DAB questions? Seeing none, any other questions from the community?
Me, choose me. This is Jane Burns, and I'm always interested. I'm thrilled about bike lanes and safe pedestrianism. I wonder if you have thrilling news about that. You have thrilling news about highways. What do you think?
Well, I've got to get to DAB 5 here in a minute, but just to give you a quick synopsis on a few things. You know, I mentioned 17th Street. We're going to have on-street bike lanes, which provides a. If you looked at an overall bike path map of the city, you'd see this huge gap right in the middle of the city, and it's that one there as far as connection to multiple paths. So we're glad to be getting that in. and getting that built. You know, we are looking at through WAMPO some federal funding to be able to update the bicycle master plan in the next couple of years, which I think is important because that's been our guide. Anytime we look at arterial street improvements, we've used that as a place to start for on-street bike lanes. And I think we've done a good job with that on trying to provide facilities, just like we did on 9th Street, improvements from 135 to Hillside. We provided a multi-use path with that project. We're trying to do everything we can within these projects for added pedestrian and especially bicycle access. And I think we've done a good job. Jane, as you know, as we've talked with the Bike and Ped Advisory Board, there's always more to be done and more to be discussed. But I can tell you the unfortunate part of that is, and with the situation we're in with COVID and the tough decisions that had to be made with council, our capital improvement program's got a gap in it here for several years where we're not going to be able to fund many street or pedestrian projects just because we've got such a revenue shortfall to make up. So now's a tough time to be discussing it, but anytime that we've got the ability to leverage outside funds, that's what we're doing.
So there isn't any hope of fresh striping of crosswalks or bike lanes? No paint in the budget? You know, go ahead.
Not any more than what's in there already, and what our partnership is with the school district. We're doing a really good job around schools. I think of getting a lot of those done with our funding partnership with them. But you know, as of right now, I mean, I don't want to get into this. I'm sure the council member doesn't want me to either. But you know, we were looking at a $50 million revenue shortfall at one time for this year and next year. Well, this year, 2021 being. And that's got to be made up somewhere. That doesn't mean that we want to cut anything that's related to public safety or otherwise, but you know, obviously when we were struggling already to keep up on things like striping, certainly right now it's not going to get a lot better, but we're always looking ahead. We're looking to the future. We're looking to KDOT and Federal Highway and places that we can find opportunities to help that out. So, you know, Jane, we're always working on it.
Thank you, Gary. I appreciate it. And I just want to speak in behalf of children who are walking to recreation centers, for folks who don't have gas for their cars, who need to get around not on bike paths, but on city streets and sidewalks. This pandemic is hard time for, you know, transportation for folks who don't have their jobs or, you know, who don't have cars. So thank you, Gary, for all you do. And thank you for anything more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Gary, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. We'll see you later. All right. So with that, we'll go ahead and move forward into the Park and Rec Department, please.
Okay, thank you. My name's Angela Buckner. I'm going to be reporting for all the recreation centers in District 1, which include Edgemoor, Linwood, McAdams, and Lynette Woodard. The majority of our winter classes start this week. They started this evening. I'm going to start with Edgemoor's report. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. Edgemoor Rec hosted a couple of fitness class demos on Saturday, December 12th. Participants were treated to half an hour of extreme hip hop, that is like traditional step aerobics class with swag. A work fitness demo for half an hour that uses traditional pop music set to cardio dance routines. There were 12 participants. These are just part of Edgemoor's upcoming winter session classes that actually started out today. Their registration is going very well. All 3 yoga classes and an intro to pickleball has great registration already. The director was able to add a couple afternoon open pickleball sessions to keep the participants happy Monday and Tuesday afternoons during the break on December the 21st, the 28th, and the 29th. Moving over to Linwood, the Linwood Rec Center utilized 54 volunteers during 2020 to assist with classes, programs, and special event operations. These volunteers accounted for 434 volunteer hours in a part-time staff cost savings of about $8,000, $7,868. Linwood Recreation Center's drop-in volleyball program is in full swing, averaging 15 players every Wednesday night. The program is capped at 15 due to mass gathering restrictions. It's generating $60 in program revenue each evening. This volleyball program is an intermediate level for players and is offered on Wednesday nights from 6:30 to 8:30. Certainly not a highlight, but Linwood news. The Linwood Library announced its official move date to their new location in 2021. Friday, January 15th will be their final day of operations within the current Linwood Library space, as they will then relocate to their new site at 4195 East Harry. This agency will be greatly missed within the Linwood Recreation Center, as it was well used by the Linwood community. McAdams will be hosting its first daddy-daughter dance on February 27th from 6 to 8 p.m. at a cost of $15 per daddy and daughter. Each additional daughter is $5. The theme will be Winter Ball. Registration for the dance will end on February 24th, and they will be following the county guidelines as well. McAdams fitness classes have been going strong throughout the pandemic, with classes going 7 days a week. If you guys are interested to come try out a fitness class, it's just a $4 drop-in fee per class. On to Lynette Woodard. Through an alliance with Child Care Aware of Kansas, Lynette Woodard Rec Center received 160 comfort kits containing numerous art supplies, including but not limited to markers, pens, drawing pads, reusable Crayola cloth face masks, sets, hand sanitizer, plus a variety of puzzles and activities for families. The kits will be used for recreation programming throughout the year and summer camp. Child Care Aware was able to purchase the comfort kits through a grant. All Kansas licensed programs through the Kansas Department of Health and Environment were able to submit information in the summer to apply for the kits. A great free resource for our program participants to utilize. At the end of 2020, Woodard wrapped up its impressive part-time personnel budget savings by utilizing volunteers through partnerships with Wichita State University Sports Management and Public Health Science departments in conjunction with community members. Yearly volunteer hours consisted of 1,075.50 and a cost savings of over 20,000, with over 26 volunteers in 9 months. With adversity during the pandemic and the shutdown, Woodard shared volunteers at other District 1 recreation centers to help with the department's overall budget savings for the year. Woodard's winter classes will begin on Saturday, January 9th, along with the rest starting Monday, January 11th. Over 78 classes will be offered during the winter session, beginning in January and February, going through the third week of March. There are 13 new classes that will be offered in a variety of age groups. And that is all I have.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any questions from the DAB? Just want to say that father-daughter dance thing is really neat. I hope that's a good turnout. Any questions from the public? Very good. Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so with that, Camila, you have public library?
Yes, I had to unmute and I'm going to share screen real quick and show a few highlights. If you'll let me know when it pops up. Can you see where it said, does it say District Advisory Board meeting notes?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so for the library, the big highlights are all library locations are operating curbside and drive-up services only. And you can call a branch or go online to schedule for material to be picked up or drop off in the drop box. They do have a digital collection that's available 24/7 also. All this information is on their website also. The Big Read this year kicks off January 9th. This year's selection is Circa by Madeline Miller, and it's a conversation about Greek mythology. Winter registration for virtual programs is taking place online. All programs will be held over Zoom. And then the library is proud to collaborate with Susan Perez and the Wichita Eagle for the 5th Art Read ICT Reading Challenge. That's where they're challenging adults to read 12 books from 12 categories in 12 months at their own pace. And lastly, you've heard this announcement again, but Linwood Park Branch Library will close for business on Friday, January 15th, and will relocate to the new space at 4195 East Harry, moving from District 1 to District 3. Until the end of January, people can still use the drop box at the Linwood branch, the current branch. And that's all for the library report.
Fantastic. I hope if there are any questions of Camila, your questions are easy to answer. And seeing none, we will go ahead and move forward. So right now in item number 6 in the public agenda, there are no scheduled items, but I believe we'll next go ahead and move into.
Can I introduce the off agenda item?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Councilmember Johnson is aware of this, and so am I, that we have citizens here from Sunnyside Neighborhood Association to share with the DAB their concerns of what's going on at a house specifically located 735 South Chautauqua. It's in the chat. This is not new knowledge to the council member, the neighborhood inspector, or the community police officer, but they want to bring light to the DAB. So Kristen, Angelina, you guys can share your thoughts and concerns.
Thank you. This is Angelina. I'll go first. So I actually live next door to 735 South Chautauqua. I reside at 729 South Chautauqua. And this problem has been going on for 10 years today. 10 years ago today, I went down to the courthouse to file a formal complaint. And the person that I met with took me to the second floor, took me over to a detective, showed me a picture of the person living there. I said, yes, that's him. And they said they had a warrant out for his arrest. And so like 10 years ago today, that happened. The house has been unoccupied, no utilities or anything for several years. A few weeks ago, one of the male residents moved back into the house, boarded over the windows, has been there. Him and his brother have both been dumping trash at that residence. A few weeks ago, I also had a neighbor that lives in the alley behind me come and knock on the door, ask me about that house and then she described 2 men that described the description of 2 people who used to live at that house. And one came back and moved in and said they were sleeping in her basement and have been breaking into her house. The coat that was on the next door video of one of the burglaries looks like the description of one of those folks that are living there. And we've complained to, I mean, it's the house really is just, there's trash everywhere. There's windows boarded over. The neighbor on the other side moved because of it. I mean, I'm concerned about our property values going down. I'm concerned about crime. And in the past, these folks have done things like steal copper wire and strip it in the backyard, break into cars, all of those things. Krista, am I missing anything that you would add? I know that you filed a complaint as well. Krista, are you still out there?
If you are, you're on mute.
Hold on, let's give you. I was gonna say she's probably muted. We'll give her a chance. Here she is. Let me hit unmute. Well, she's there. As soon as she chimes in, we can. There she goes. Krista, she might be having some technical problems. But Krista has emailed all of her concerns. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, hold on. Let me switch back to my headset. Okay, sorry about all that. And I even have a tech company. Who knew? So I have actually asked for this house to be added to the demolition list, because what has happened in the last decade is that Angelina and the people living around them, they have put in, I want to say when Angelina and I were looking at it on the city website, I found more than 30 different complaints at that house. It is in constant state of, we can't serve a warrant. They've got to, and I get that it's COVID, and it doesn't really matter that it's COVID, because this has been going on for a decade. But so they transferred the mother owned the home. Then she so sweetly gifted the home to her daughter. I don't know if there was a monetary transaction involved, but now this is on her daughter's shoulders. Then one of her brothers has just recently moved back into this home that has no utilities. My understanding is he was using the backyard as a restroom. I don't know if that was number one and number two. Don't really care. When you have a problem like this, and they've also not paid taxes, get right to that tipping point, and then look, we pay the taxes, or we do the sell it to our daughter thing. This is not an acceptable solution that we need to constantly go through and put in a new report and come back. And the people that live around there are, like, I walk by that house, I've driven down the alley, I've taken pictures. It is a hot trash hole, and that is not our neighborhood. And I have a feeling that so in Sunnyside recently, we've had a significant uptick in larceny. We've had several, and I know that's happened all throughout the city, but about the time that this individual came back and boarded up the windows and is living in a house without any utilities, we also saw a significant uptick in larceny as well. And we had kind of been a little bit lower, I hadn't seen as much communication around it, right? And so we've got to do something else. Like what our current thing is that we're doing, it is not working at all. And it's really frustrating for the citizens of Wichita to have to deal with this process, especially when it never, ever gets taken care of. So the city comes out and mows the front yard, but I don't think they can go into the fenced yard that this house actually sits. It's like a weird, the way it's situated is kind of odd, and it, like where the house is actually where the backyard kind of should be. But then there's an entire fence thing all around it with just more and more trash. The roof is caving in, or not caving in, but there's windows that are broken out. I can't imagine what the inside of this place looks like. I can't imagine what the critters have done in there, minus the people that live there. And I tell you this, I've known Angelina for a decade or more now, and she used to post about things that were going on at this house. And it was funny at the time, but now it's no longer funny. 10 years in and somebody has to move because they're like, I can't live next to this anymore. This is ridiculous. Like, we've got to have a different solution.
I'll add too, just to add a little bit more context to it. The folks that live on the other side of 735, originally 735 was the carriage house for that house. And then once upon a time they were split up. They moved out because of everything that was going on there. One example is one of the brothers, I don't know if he has mental problems or what, but it smashed the toilet and everything in the house. And so when it gets really hot, like triple degrees in the summer, it smells like sewage because of what they did over there. And they continued to use it even though there's no water turned on in the house. There's raccoons going in and out of the windows that are broken out. I mean, there's all kinds of wildlife. We've seen possums, raccoon, foxes, all kinds of stuff over in that house. And then a year ago, they parked a boat in the front yard and it's been sitting there. I don't think the boat runs or anything of it. I mean, it's And then every 2 weeks they come and dump trash either inside the house or in the backyard. And I've been complaining for 10 years.
Yeah, like when I pulled up the thing that I could find on the city's website, I found, I know I could look back in Angelina and I's conversation. I found at least 30 different things. One of them, I talked to the inspector and he's like, yeah, we haven't been able to serve a warrant. I have messaged the person that owns the home on Facebook, both of her Facebook accounts that I could find. She has not responded to me because I was going to see, because I have a realtor friend. I was like, well, maybe somebody would buy it. Angelina then informs me, yeah, we offered to buy the property, but they weren't interested. But now 10 years in, we still have this, and nothing is very disheartening, and it does not feel like anything is getting done or will get done because historically nothing has been done. Maybe the yard was mowed once or 3 times by the city, but so what are our other options? Because I know you're like, yeah, turn it in, keep turning it in, but 10 years of turn-ins, we're not getting nowhere.
Yeah, and part of the roof is caving in too in the back.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, I know. Like it looks like a hot trash mess.
Can I
what
chime in real quick? Because we do have a time situation for each public set of comments. And we know that, coming into this conversation, it wouldn't be resolved tonight, but that the DAB members could truly hear your concerns that me and Councilmember Johnson have heard from Krista the last 3 years, 3 to 5 years. So, Councilmember Johnson, I'm not sure if you want to share any words, but know that as soon as they can, the environmental court will try to serve warrants. And I don't know if everyone knows, environmental warrants have to be served when the person is available. And so it is a cat and mouse game, unfortunately.
Yeah, we want to do whatever we can to support you guys to help us get this resolved. That's really, like, our goal isn't to go, you guys haven't done anything. Our goal is to go, okay, how can we support you? What do we need to do to help you all help us get this resolved?
Just as a DAB member, this is yikes. Yikes. Councilman, I think you were going to.
Agreed.
Yeah, I have answers. They will not be happy answers, but one of the best things to do to help us is to keep those complaints coming. And I say that for a number of reasons. So for the last couple years, I've been trying to work with our team on how can we address issues like this, because we hear about it quite a bit from other houses. And there's a lot of facets that go into why nothing that should happen does happen, and a lot of that is state law. There's a number of loopholes that truly irritate me. I can tell by listening to you, it irritates you. But the one loophole that will allow that property to stay there like that for quite some time is the tax loophole, where you can pay your that 3rd or 4th year's taxes, and you don't have to worry about losing your property, even if you're delinquent on other taxes, even if you are out of compliance, even if you're not up to code. I've been trying to find a way around that for some time. And last year, pre-pandemic, that was kind of one of my goals, was to really push for changes in the legislature, see what we could do legally to challenge some of that stuff. But of course, COVID, and now COVID's impacting the courts. So even with this paperwork and going back to environmental court, all of our courts are behind a number of cases because they were closed for almost 2 months. And even then, I think some cases are trying to get priority. We've got other stuff going on. So none of that is good answers, but I think the best thing is to continue the complaints. I would also reach out to your state level reps and senators. On the state level, when this comes up, the argument that has historically been made is individual property rights, and not necessarily yours, the individual who has that property. And I've not heard any arguments as to accountability, aside from folks should keep their property up. But when we bring up specific cases here in Wichita or around the state where one property owner is basically the bane of existence for the rest of the neighborhood, there hasn't really seemed to be too much motion on that. And I think that's ridiculous personally. So we're going to keep beating that drum. As far as DAB goes, I think it's good to have more people understand these issues. I also hear about that from Matlack Heights quite a bit and other parts of District 1. But the more noise I think is made about it, the better off we'll be. It's still going to take some time, especially through the courts. One of the other issues we've had through our inspection department is we've only got 2 people for the whole city that serves UC's, uniform complaints, which is what these are. And those 2 people have a full workload. I mean, between District 1 and District 3, there's hundreds, if not thousands of cases. So we've got a lot of issues there. I've been trying to work with my colleagues on seeing how we can fund additional positions there to kind of get that going. There was a District 3 pilot in Hilltop that paid for, I believe it was one person who did UCs for that area. And they saw a really quick turnaround with some properties. So we're hoping to expand that throughout the department. That department is a city-county venture. So we're talking with the county as well, but there is quite a bit of hurdles we have to go through. But I do want to let you know, we do hear you. It's just trying to get through some of the state level legal issues, figuring out better processes here with the city. This is one of those houses that I'll make sure is on the list. We were trying to build a list of problem properties to talk with our court system and our MAPT department about. So we'll add that to that if it's not already on there. I say that because I'm not looking at the list right now. But there is a log of cases that Camila has shared with me. I wouldn't be surprised if that's one on there. But I think the more we talk about it, the more we highlight this frustrating issue and find a way to reframe this whole property rights thing. I get it, but you know, if one house is bad on the block, everyone else's property rights are being violated. And that just never seems to be taken seriously on the state level. So hopefully that changes. I'll definitely talk to the folks I know in Topeka about that as well.
Hey, I have a question. So I know I read recently in the Wichita Eagle that the Sedgwick County was trying to get something in place because there's some properties in the county that the city, that are county properties, not city properties, and they're trying to move something forward to handle these nuisance crap properties, whatever you want to call them. Do you know anything about that, how that might affect us, or does it have any bearing on us at all? And how can we support you in this? Like, do you need us to go and get signatures? What can we do to help you with this?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I don't know right now what's going on with the county. I can reach out. I've got a good relationship with the 2 for District 1, which is Commissioner or Chairman Meitzner and Commissioner Cruz or Chair Pro Tem Cruz. So I'll reach out to them to see where they're at. The best thing right now is just those continued complaints. I've actually kind of committed my 2021 to doing something about this once and for all. So once we figure out the steps that we need to take, I will definitely reach out to you and Krista about that and everyone else as well, to see what we can do specifically. But I do believe letting our state level elected folks know about it is one easy thing we can do. They've had a blight bill for some time that dealt with not only houses that are caving in and stuff like that, but it also just houses that were not up to code, and it continued to die. And I don't think it's being resurrected right now, but I'm going to talk with Senator Faust-Cadeau and Representative Finney about that, because they both were supportive of those efforts just to see what we can do. But my hope is to take all of the data we have here, the specifics of complaints. So just so you know, I have requested from MAPD a list of problem properties over the last decade to see those specific complaints. And my goal is to take the specific issues we see from consistent problem properties, not just in this district, but all over, to figure out what we can do legally with our city team, talk with the county and also the state to say, these are the issues we're having and we need something done and we need it now. At that point, definitely having everyone's voice would be helpful.
yeah, like a 3 strikes and you're out type of thing. I don't know. Like I'm probably being aggressive, but at the same time, like you can only do, I'm like, if you got 10 years and now you're living someplace and pooping in the backyard and there's no utilities, like we got to come. So is there something, so can we get the hot team involved? Maybe this individual's homeless. I'm going to assume he is if he's living in a house that he has to poop in the backyard. Would that be a good choice, is to get hot involved? Or is there another organization that we can reach out to get these people the help that maybe they need? I imagine the young lady that owns the home is in her young 20s. So like trying to navigate what I imagine is a difficult family situation seems like a lot on her. So if we could get any kind of resources that you know of that we could help maybe guide her to or guide them to, we would be really super appreciative of that. Also, completely not related to this house, if a citizen went and blew leaves back into somebody's yard because they don't ever clean them up and there's no sidewalk for people to walk on, and there's the east-west streets don't have sidewalks on Sunnyside, is there any known problem other than just being a jerk?
That really is a civil complaint, unfortunately. We've had those. We have former
No,
council.
so if I go blow, my point is, if I go blow these people's leaves back up in their yard because they just let the leaves pile up all around their 15 cars that are out there,
it's some type of civil issue, Krista.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you. Nope, you're good. Thanks.
No, seriously, if you're standing on your property blowing those leaves versus if you're standing on their property, is 2 different issues, like trespassing or not trespassing.
Oh no, I'm not trespassing. I'm not going to go on their property.
You mean the said
Or
person is not trespassing, right?
the said person wouldn't go on the said property with their leaf blower. They would just, because leaves blow, right? That's right. Yeah, that's a civil thing. They'd have to want to, like my brother barely got some time in jail for stealing some cars. Sorry, that's the thing that happens though sometimes. So I probably am not going to get in that much trouble. Thank you. I hope you guys have a most fabulous evening, and I'll shut up now so somebody else can speak.
Well, thank you, Krista. We'll be in touch.
Thank you very much for bringing this to your attention. Is there anything that warrants actually putting this on a future agenda to talk to future departments on the particular topic?
The council member has it at the highest level it can go within the city. Just truly wanted to bring it to the DAB's attention. They have been very, very upfront and vocal when things happen and change at this house. And you should know that the inspection department has to put a notice on the door if they know someone is living in the house. They can't just go in, even if it's a tent. Police department is always available, hot team, to go and serve someone who's considered homeless or vagrant. It is a truly known issue, but if the owner is not telling them they have to leave, the city cannot make them leave. If it really is her brother, unless the environmental court and the utility part, that's where the city can try to hit them at. Because there's no utilities and there's someone staying in the house, the health part of that can be addressed once the environmental court is full swinging again.
So if you guys have any other, I know at one time the city had a liaison that was trying to help people like get their houses painted when they weren't up to code, and like kind of like works with hoarders and, kind of helps. I don't know if that person is still here. I don't remember who it is, but maybe somebody like that would be a good person to build a relationship with for these people.
Correct. Krista, they always introduce the homeowner to the neighborhood inspection liaison, but they have to choose to work with that person. So if the person who's getting the court letters is not responding, they're never going to meet Suzanne and go from there.
Okay, what's Suzanne's last name?
I'll get it to you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Very good. With that, I think we'll go ahead and close up this particular section of discussion. Thank you very much for the good information. Tell you the truth, next time, maybe 2 months from now, if we don't actually have anything that's specifically on the agenda, I'd like to go ahead and get this back on as a revisit, kind of where we're at. I can't imagine how frustrating this would be after 10 years. So thank you for your patience and your willingness to go ahead and continue to work. So with that,
thank you.
Is there any other off agenda items that would like to be discussed by the public? Seeing none, then we'll go ahead and move into item number 8, and I'll hand it back over to Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Aaron. One recommendation before I get started. You said 2 months. Can we look at potentially April or May? And I only say that because of COVID and getting out. And right now, the department is kind of, a lot of folks were in quarantine, so they're not doing a whole lot of outside of the house or anything work as a whole. So I think if we do April, we might be able to get some better leeway, and we would have had a few more conversations about progress on that issue by then.
That sounds great to me.
Okay. Other than that, nothing is happening in the city of Wichita. I have no updates. I've got a few things. I'll make it quick to not take up too much time. So tomorrow, or not tomorrow, the city of Wichita recently reached out for public engagement for professional management services for Century 2. We are seeking to have some professional assistance with programming, events, things like that over at the facility. With that, there have been, I think, some confusion around privatizing it, like the city will still own it. This company will kind of do like the company does for Interest Bank Arena, and that is to find events, program it, try to bring some life back. And with the industry potentially changing because of COVID and not knowing what that looks like coming back, that extra management will help us out quite a bit. So right now, there's a link. I can make sure you all get that, but we're seeking citizen feedback on the RFP before we put it out. So that way it can be shaped the way the citizens of Wichita want to see it shaped. And then we'll put that out for bid for folks to bid on to operate Century 2. With that, again, the city council committed to 10 years worth of funding for Century 2, $2.5 million over 10 years to fund that. So for any concerns of we're getting rid of it, or this is another step to get rid of Century 2, that's not the case. The council supports our current facility. And again, just looking to maximize the space as we have it currently. As you all know from our last meeting to now, a council member has resigned. The District 3 council member resigned effective December 31st. That means there's a vacancy. Tomorrow, Mayor Whipple will announce that vacancy. We are statutorily required to do so at that first meeting afterwards. So that will go out. The District Advisory Board for District 3 will interview all candidates. They have a series of questions they'll ask them. They will rank and score their top 5 candidates, and those 5 candidates will come to the city council. I don't have the date in front of me, but I'm assuming that will be first or second meeting in February, like it was for Councilmember Tuttle when we appointed her to fill District 2. For the District 3 vacancy, this person will really, truly serve out the remaining term of former Councilmember Clendenin. That individual is free to run for office if they want to actually be elected in November, but that's not a requirement of this process. I believe, I don't have my packet in front of me. I do believe there is the normal process of getting 100 signatures to be kind of your first barrier, or not barrier, your first challenge to show that you have support from District 3. And then I think we made a secondary process to where you can potentially do some online virtual things, but it's complicated to do that. You've got to FaceTime and see, but all of that will get announced tomorrow. But I think the main thing to know is that the top 5 will be selected by the district advisory board. That will be sent on to the council. We will do interviews, and then we will, by vote, a written vote. So we'll all write out who we think should be appointed. That will be read aloud for the public to hear. And the person with the majority will be the person who fulfills the remainder of that term for District 3. Also in District 3, it was talked about earlier, we know the Linwood branch is moving. The District 3 library, the new library, we will be officially adopting potentially tomorrow the name of that library. The library board recommended, the library board recommended one name, and there were, I think the top 3 were former Mayor Brewer, Meadowlark, and then Ron Walters. And the district advisory board, or not the district advisory board, the library board recommended Ron Walters. So the council will vote on that tomorrow. If the council approves it, that new library will officially be called the Ronald Walters Library in District 3. And that will bring a new opportunity for that district to have a library, since it has none with the redistricting. Glenwood came over to District 1 and District 3 didn't have a library. So that's a great opportunity for them. And that library will look really nice. It's a big space, open, much bigger than the current Linwood Library. So they will have that opportunity as well coming up. But you can tune into the meeting tomorrow at 9 o'clock to see about the naming and the vote for that. Also, 3 more things. Martin Luther King Jr. Day holiday weekend is all coming up. Celebrations this year may look a little different. I think the Greater Wichita Ministerial League is having an all virtual celebration. I don't have all the updates on the other celebrations, but I would assume most are virtual or definitely limited capacity just because of the ongoing pandemic. Next week, the city council will choose a new vice mayor. The selection will happen at the council meeting and the swearing in will happen at the council meeting. Our current vice mayor is District 6 council member Cindy Claycomb. So next Tuesday, we will elect a new vice mayor. And then for everyone who has been wondering about city council policy around ethics, we will have a January 26th workshop. Remember, workshops start at 9:30 and not 9 o'clock. That will be a very detailed, oriented presentation. I'm looking forward to that dialogue. Over the last year, we've all kicked around ideas and thoughts around ethics. So there will be a proposed policy. I definitely would like you all to tune in, hear it, and then email definitely me and the whole council about what you think about it. What is it missing, if anything? If it's good, if it's not good. Want to really hear your thoughts about that before we adopt a new policy. If you haven't read our current policy, it sounds nice, but there's no teeth in it. So, redoing the ethics policies will be really good for our city. So hopefully you all will tune in to that. And those are the main things I wanted to highlight. Again, tomorrow's council meeting will look at the District 3 library renaming. The mayor will announce the vacancy for District 3. And then we'll be talking for the next month about the professional management services for Century 2. So I will stop there and see if there's any questions.
Just a couple of things going on.
Yeah.
Questions? Yeah.
This is Camila. I unmuted because this is a question that Councilmember Johnston can kind of take on. It's from the prior conversation of the nuisance house, but it goes into any update or progress on establishing a landlord association.
So that conversation, I know Chief Ramsey said there is one. I have not met with that group just yet. If we are looking to establish a new one, then definitely that sounds good. I think landlords could get together and talk about the various sectors of the city or sectors of the district and see if there are things that are needed, things that are wanted, and really look at helping out there. If that landlord association, the one that Chief Ramsey's talked about, is not meeting or something's different with it, or it's really homeowners association, then definitely starting a new one would work out, and especially over here in Northeast Wichita.
I have a couple of questions. I just lost them, a couple of them. But so how do you think, or have you and the council received any kind of like city budget updates as far as like how we're doing economically now with like the year 2020 being over, now going into 2021, and kind of how year end in the, I guess fall, I'm thinking of like semesters now, but of just like last, oh my God, end of last year, kind of how we're doing financially as a city, and what kind of potential projections they're looking at in the upcoming quarter?
So we had our fourth quarter council meeting. I don't remember what day, where we looked at the fiscal situation. This year was balanced, of course. We went through our budget deal August 11th or 12th. Not a whole lot changed. We had a few end of year budget adjustments just to make sure everything was good there. I believe 21 was projected another large deficit that may or may not change. We're monitoring what Congress is going to do CARES wise. We were able to save a little money with some decisions we made, but we tend to not have a budget update retreat for the year until, I want to say February, maybe mid-February is when we'll have our retreat. Hopefully it's then or a little sooner, because I'm interested in that too. And then we'll have budget projections going forward. I was just talking with Camila about potentially having our finance director be a guest of a future District 1 breakfast, depending on when that retreat is. So if we have it in February, he'd probably come in March. If we have it in March, I'd ask him to come in April.
And going back to the Century 2 conversation that you were talking about, you had mentioned that the council is committed to funding for the next 10 years. Is that reversible by a future council? Or is that locked in for 10 years?
Future councils could reverse that. I guess if necessary, like, if something happened with the structure, or, we decided to invest more money in it. And I say we, depends on how long I'm on the council. But future council probably could. I don't see that happening because Century 2 has quite a bit of maintenance that's necessary just to keep it operational as is. We did pass a prior council policy to where if there's any significant renovations, any push to tear it down, any push to, add another Century 2 on top of it, it has to go out for public vote. So we won't be doing any major things like that. And the only way I think that funding would, be disrupted is if the public wanted to do something different with that space. Then the future council would deobligate that money and put it back probably into the general fund. But I don't see anyone just saying, hey, that was stupid, we're going to reverse that decision.
Okay. I lost my other two questions, but I'm sure they'll come back to me later. And if they do, then I can ask you those later. But thank you.
The hard questions go to Camila.
Well done. Any other questions for Councilman?
Question. So I guess I must have missed the city council meeting. I thought Century 2 was up to be demolished and all those conversations. And I know we did bids to see if we need a new civic center and all that good stuff. And so then when I did read that we were going to hold on to it for 10 years, I was just kind of wondering, how did we get from it's no good, too many repairs, to let's keep it?
Yeah, there was a lot of misinformation going around about Century 2, which really muddied the water about all of this. So we never had any bids on Century 2. We never put out any RFPs on it. The process since I've been on council has been the private sector was looking at how do we reinvigorate Wichita, the downtown, the region, the West Bank and the East Bank. The Riverfront Legacy Master Plan came from Project Wichita, which came from a city-to-city trip from another city. We saw one city engage its citizens, figured out what the citizens wanted. They went through with the plan. It's been great. So that's where Project Wichita came from. The Riverfront Legacy Master Plan, the private sector started looking at, how can we get some ideas together, get some support behind doing something. With that, the city and county then bought in at $100,000 a piece. And that made all the meetings public. We wanted to make sure we got more citizen engagement and input. And from that, more than 14,000 people participated in Project Wichita. There was 5,000 or 6,000 data points for the riverfront. And in that, the master plan, which still hasn't come to council, so we haven't officially received it. We all know what it is, but it hasn't been officially received by the council to be adopted as a master plan. That was put together from citizen input. Folks wanted more green space and all of that. So that would have eliminated Century 2 and the library. But again, that was just a master plan. That was a $1.2 billion plan at the time. And then there was conversations from a group of folks who wanted to just save Century 2 that later added the library. And they were arguing that the Riverfront Legacy Master Plan was doing away with that, while all along we were simply trying to get citizen engagement input. There was a master plan that was never presented to us, and none of us committed to tearing down Century 2 and doing any of that. We were just going along with the process as we should. Fast forward to February of last year, the council was getting ready to receive the master plan in March. Of course, COVID happened and that basically stopped it. We've not received it. We've not even really had conversations about that. The Save Century 2 group had 17,000 or so signatures. And unfortunately, I don't have my notes. I don't know what the final verified number was for that. But they essentially were saying that they wanted a public vote. And there was a problem with that petition. The language didn't have some of the legalese that you have to have, saying that we shall do something. That was missing. There were questions around it being a administrative type ordinance, which is illegal in Kansas per state statute. And so what the council then did, in addition to me and other council members saying, we're not trying to tear it down, was that we committed to a public vote. So there's a council policy that was created that said if we were going to demo it, if we're going to do some significant renovations, anything like that, it would have to go out to a public vote. Then there was a disconnect between, again, there was a group of people saying that we could have made a binding vote, but they weren't explaining to the public what binding really was. And so everything's advisory unless you have some type of binding action, like a tax to it. And so the Save Century 2 petition, as I don't remember all the stuff that was in there right now, but the way it was written was basically those two facilities and potentially up to another 200 City of Wichita owned properties would be governed by this, and that any major renovation, so the McAfee pool, if that was deemed historic, we couldn't have just done that. We would have had to go out to a public vote, and all of the City of Wichita would have been able to say yes or no to that pool based on the language in that petition. As we were trying to highlight that, arguments were being made, and I'll say disinformation that we were trying to tear it down, and that wasn't the case. We were just saying that was an illegal petition, but to honor the folks who supported that, we came up with that council policy. At this point, we've still not received a master plan. There's been some pushes for us to use some historical tax credits to do some major renovations of the facility. But again, council policy, we'd have to go out to a public vote to do major stuff. The council did commit to ongoing maintenance. What that means is, the minor things that need to get fixed, we're taking care of those, making sure it stays clean, making sure it stays operable. If they need some new paint somewhere, we're doing that. We're just not doing major work to the facility because the citizens haven't voted yet to tell us what they actually want to do with that facility going forward. So at no point did we say we wanted to tear it down or anything like that. We've just been receiving input, master plans, and going through that process.
Okay, because I know that to do all the renovations, it was a high price ticket. So is it going to be a vote this year, or do you know, the citizens? Will that be on? Because we vote this year for some stuff.
City and school board is this year. I don't think it'll be this year, coming out of COVID, trying to rebuild our economy. I don't think anybody really has an appetite to look at a potentially binding action that would potentially raise the tax for a little bit. What I do think will happen is we'll recover, conversations will start back. We'll look at what the new world of conventions looks like and see if that actually fits what was in that master plan. At some point, we'll have to receive it and then go from there. So if there was a vote, I don't see it happening until 2022 or 2023.
All right, thank you.
Very good discussion. Any other questions for Councilman?
Hey, you answered everything well.
Fantastic. And Camila actually got away unscathed with the hard questions. Good deal. With that, why don't we go ahead and move into new business, item number 9.
Hey, before you jump into item number 9, I do want to highlight on this item, we did receive some neighborhood input. I think that you all received specifically one from Ms. Bostic. In regard to, I would say, the developer, maybe they're on the phone. I have received a number of potential complaints about properties that are owned by the developer and concerns about what this new development would mean. And again, normally I don't jump into this, but I wanted to make sure that you all knew that there were some concerns about the number of properties, the condition of the properties, and now this would be a new property. And does the new property, will it have the same or better management? And then would this actually fit the character of the neighborhood? So I wanted to give you all that before this starts. And I know that many of you have questions. I've seen some of that from social media, but I wanted to give that to you first. We have received that. We are looking into more of that. So yeah, turn it back over to you.
Very good. With that, I will hand it over to staff, please.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name is Matt Williams. I'm in the planning department for the city and the county. I believe the case that Councilmember Johnson is talking about is going to be the second case we're going to talk about. So the first one we're going to be talking about is Zone 2020-46. And Camila, I can share my screen and show a map if that would help.
I'm unmuting and I'll attempt to share screen, but earlier it didn't give me that option even when I went to security to make a co-host. I think it's the way our Zoom account is set up, but I have the full report.
Okay, yeah, it would just be to kind of show where it's at. The first case is Zone 2020-46.
Yeah, I'll go grab it. If you want to keep talking, I'll go grab it.
Okay. The owner of this property is trying to rezone their lot from limited industrial to multifamily residential. The subject property is currently developed with a legal non-conforming single-family residence that includes an existing accessory apartment on the second floor. And it's located on the east of North Washington and north of 2nd Street. So it's basically located at North Washington and 3rd Street. Because there is an accessory apartment within the single family home, in order to bring it into conforming with the zoning, the person who's working to do some construction on the house needs to apply for the zone change to make the use comply with the underlying zoning.
Okay, Matt, this is the, can you see the square location right here?
Yep.
Okay, then so that shows Washington running north, central, east and west, and Wabash, north and south. Then if I jump down, is this the other map?
Yeah, you can just keep it on that one for right now. That works. So this site is located within the established central area, which is the area that's comprised of downtown and the mature neighborhoods around it. The established central area is the focus of the Places for People plan, where we kind of more walkability and more density in our urban core. The requested zoning would continue to allow the property to be in conformance with those plans. And because of that and other items report, we are recommending approval of the zoning request. So I'm not sure if the applicant is here, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff from the DAB first?
Can I clarify, we're just bringing it into compliance because there's an accessory apartment, correct?
Yeah, it's an old property that, you know, a single family home with an accessory apartment in an industrial area technically is not allowed. So to allow it to continue operating as it has for years, they need to update the zoning to this multifamily zoning, which would allow what they have there. And the reason he's having to update it is because he's trying to do construction on the house, which requires a large enough construction requires that you be in compliance with the code.
Very good. Any other questions from Deb?
So really quick, is it like a family lives there, or they're renting it out, or what kind of property? Is it like a rental property, or is it a family home property?
It is. I spoke to the owner of the property. It sounds like no one lives there right now, but it's basically a single family home that's being rented, and then there's an accessory apartment unit kind of on the second floor that's being rented. So almost like a duplex, just minor differences to that.
Very good. Any other DAB questions for staff? Are there any other questions of the community for staff? Very good. Is the applicant with us? I will take that as a no. That noted, I move to approve.
I second.
Is there any other discussion?
I'm unmuted to say that the last time I checked, we had 7 DAB members. Let me check again. 1, 2,
well, thank you. Deal.
3, 4, 5. Oh gosh. Yeah, this is hard to navigate for whatever reason today.
I'm counting 8.
Hey, good deal. Camila,
I don't see where's your 8th person? I don't see 8. I'm just gonna say it out loud. When you vote, I'll just say by hand, and you can say yay or nay when we vote, and that will be the best bet for me.
Very good. I've got a real quick question in the discussion period, and just to clarify, I believe staff actually noted that that the comments that Councilman made may not have been applicable to this particular zoning case, and I just wanted to double check that's the case.
Yes, I'll move them down to agenda item 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I was looking at my sheet, not the screen.
Awesome. Is there any other discussion anybody wants to have before we vote? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
Oh no, I gotta go roll call. I need to ask roll call.
Okay.
Lawanda?
Yes.
If Tex is not here, Joseph Tex. Gabriel?
Yes.
Jamie, I don't see present. Danielle?
She put yes in the chat.
Thank you. Aaron?
Yes.
Tadana?
Aye.
Nikayla?
Hi.
Seth?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yeses. And our youth member is here observing.
Come on, he can vote too, right?
That's right.
You should jump in there. Ruben, come on, man. All right. Oh, well.
Hi. Sorry, my mic was having issues.
Very good. So Camila, it looks like I think that one's actually passed.
Yes, 7-0 for the record. Matt, I'll get that to you tomorrow.
Fantastic.
Sounds good.
All right. So with that, let's go ahead and hit item 10, please.
Okay, so item 10 is PUD 2020 number 7. The contract buyer of this property is seeking to establish the Wynn Senior Village PUD to permit multifamily development on a property generally located about 1 block west of Oliver and 2 blocks south of East 17th Street. The project description states that this will be a low-density multifamily housing facility exclusively serving individuals 55 years of age and older. The senior apartment complex will have an on-site community gathering building intended to offer residents activities, community support services, and in-house facility management staff. This is not any type of nursing or residential care facility. The 5-acre site was formerly the location of the Holy Savior Catholic Academy, and prior to that was the Wichita Public School System. 2 additional apartment buildings will be built on the north portion of the site with a courtyard between them. And parking is proposed to be to the east, south, and west of the site. The former school building will also be renovated as part of the project as part of the community facility. The proposed uses for the PUD include those that are permitted for multifamily residential zoning districts, with the addition of personal care services and personal improvement services. Restaurants that serve liquor can be developed and may serve liquor as long as food is the primary service of the establishment. The proposed text of the PUD contains our normal language. It also allows a reduction of 20% in the parking requirement. The height of any of the buildings shall not exceed 2 stories. Landscape shall be in accordance with the Wichita Landscape Ordinance. And in addition, the applicant shall only be required to have a 6-foot solid screening fence along the north and east sides of the property. On the west side of the property, the applicant can have a 6-foot screening fence that just screens the parking area. The surrounding area is all single-family 5 residential zoning. And then when it comes to neighborhood plans, there is a Central Northeast neighborhood plan that was updated in 2005, I believe, and it governs this area. And various aspects of the plan talk about the need in senior housing and neighborhood serving personal services. Also encourages more neighborhood serving retail and personal services, I just said. So this is in accordance with that plan. This is also within the established central area, like the last case was, and the places for people plan also encourages projects like this. As Camila or the council member said, we have gotten a few comments from neighbors about this. I will let any neighbors speak about this that might want to, but information that we have available when it comes to land use and the above information I talked about, staff is recommending approval of this with a few minor modifications that are in the staff report. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'd have a question for you, Matt.
Yep.
The study that you were talking about, I kind of looked it up a little bit. I just noticed that it was created in 1995 and only updated in 2005. Is that the most recent any kind of study like this for the neighborhood or for the area?
That's the most recent neighborhood plan that covers that area. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious because kind of, 2005, it wasn't, a couple years ago. That was 15 years ago now. Neighborhood lot changes in 15 years. So.
Oh, I definitely agree.
Matt, unless I missed it, what was the reason for the reduction of parking?
I believe that reduction was requested by the applicant just based on the layout of the site. Camila, if you want to scroll down a little bit, there is a site plan towards the bottom of the staff report. And basically what we would do is we would look at the different uses that are being requested on the site, and then we've got a table that kind of gives, yeah, there it is, that gives required parking spaces, and a reduction of 20% is not that unusual.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions of staff from the DAB?
So did you get enough petitions to warrant another look at this?
Well, how that works is we haven't had the public hearing yet. The public hearing will be, I believe, on the 7th. Yeah, so just in a couple days on January 7th at the Planning Commission. And so we accept comments from neighbors right now. Neighbors can also, or anyone can make comments at the Planning Commission meeting. But when they make their vote, then that opens a 2-week protest period where the official protest can be turned in that would require a bigger vote from the city council for it to be passed.
Okay.
Very good. Any other questions from the DAB to staff?
Well, I'll just say, some people have reached out to me saying that they do have the concerns that Councilmember Johnson brought up, that other properties owned by this person has not been kept up. They're proposing to put 2 apartment complexes in the middle of a residential neighborhood, and also proposing to maybe have some type of restaurant that serves alcohol in the middle of a residential community. And then they're also asking for reduced parking. So it just sounds like a recipe for maybe some bad things to happen. A lot of people crammed together, not enough parking. I attended sporting events in that community, and I know the homeowners are really concerned about people parking on the streets, blocking their homes. So I think those things should be taken into consideration when we're talking about limiting or reducing the number of parking spots required.
Very good. Are there any more DAB questions to staff?
Yeah, I've got a question for you, Matt. You mentioned that the school would need to be renovated. Is the status of the interior of infrastructure, how is that? Is there mold? I mean, it's been vacant for quite some time. So what does that all entail?
You know, I can't really answer that. If the applicant's here, they might be able to help you with that. You know, as far as the zoning of the land is concerned, that really isn't important for our recommendation that the zoning be approved. That's kind of on the applicant to see if they can update that school to make it work. But if they're here, I'm sure they'd be able to give you a little bit more background on that.
Okay, that makes sense. In this question stems from, if, like you said, if they can make that work, if they get in there and they see, wow, this is full of mold, or wow, this, you know, whatever old equipment is in there, and it's just over budget, or it's just a bigger project. I mean, that could put a big damper on plans moving forward. So I feel like that would need to be in consideration for this plan to move forward, because that's such a big, factor.
Hi, this is Camila. If I could unmute real quick. The report says that Mike Seward is the agent, and previously he was on the line. Matt, I don't know if you can see everyone that's on the call. So
Yes,
Matt,
I see that name on here.
you're welcome to speak.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Mike Syward here. I am the architect helping Con get through this PUD process. I really can't address any issues that Councilman Johnson brought up. I'm not that familiar with the business that Con runs, to tell you the truth. As far as the budget and renovating the existing school building, we haven't gotten into the project that far to create any kind of recommendation that needs to be done to the school. However, I can say just from my experience that the renovations that would be needed to make that a community center that would serve this development would have to be extensive enough that everything would have to be brought up to code. And it would be probably in the order of $500,000 just for that upgrade of the existing building. We've had some preliminary budgets done, some cost estimating with a contractor for what you see on the PUD site plan. And nothing's been designed yet. No decisions have been made. Just the cost of site development, land development, and the existing school, it's running about $8 or $9 million. So this is not an insignificant project, but I would tend to agree with everybody that management could be something that needs to be looked at. I haven't been a part of any of those discussions with Councilman Johnson at all, so I really can't address that.
And I'm still unmuted to say at some point the applicant was on the line too.
Chi, her business partner, and her realtor was on the line earlier, but I just looked at the roster here. He has left the meeting at some point.
And is Chi, can you share, this is for my notes purposes, is there a relationship or different name between Chi and what the report says, Con Kim Nguyen?
Chi is her realtor in the purchase of the property. And he, to be honest, he helps interpret a lot of language for me. So he knows what's going on. He knows about this project. There is quite a language barrier with Con, but she's not here, and I can't address a whole lot.
Thank you.
All right. So if the applicant is not here, are there any other questions from the DAB to the agent?
I have one more question. They are presenting this as a facility for 55 and older. Is there anything that would bind them to that?
Matt, you want to address that? It's in the PUD, and it will be tied to the title of the property as far as zoning. If the property, this is what I understand, Matt, if the property gets sold, of course, these restrictions of the PUD follow the title. So any future owners of the property would have to adhere to everything on the PUD.
Yeah, that's correct. The PUD definitely follows the property, regardless of who owns it. I don't remember if it specifically talks about the 55 and older within the PUD language.
Yeah,
it does, and I'm currently looking at it.
It does. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure if we would be able to determine, you know, the age of someone that lives there based on a note in the PUD. I can look into that for you, but I'm guessing that would be hard to hold them to.
Right, since it's not it won't be a licensed facility, they're just saying that's who they prefer to rent to.
Yeah, to me, it almost sounds more like a marketing thing. Where, you know,
Right.
we're marketing towards that age group, but I'm not sure we can hold them to it based on that.
There are, and I'm sure someone on the committee here can help me. There are real estate restrictions on advertising for equal opportunity housing. That it has to, if you advertise for 55 or older, it is elderly housing basically, and can't be open, or you can restrict housing to only people in that age group. So there is a lot more weight to that restriction than one might think.
Oh, so they are requesting some type of grant or subsidies for a senior facility?
No, not at all. It's just equal housing. You can you generally can't restrict housing to the usual groups of people that are covered. However, you can if it is elderly housing, and 55 and up is what qualifies as elderly housing. So they could not rent it to, they could keep out children, they could keep out anyone under 18. And that it follows the equal housing laws in that regard.
Okay, but if they rent out the facility and allow drinking and things like that, then that could be to anybody.
I'm not sure I quite understand that.
Oh, in the PUD, it talks about the community center may serve food and alcohol.
Her intention is to have some lease spaces inside the community center for personal care and to serve food. So there might be a cafe or coffee shop. I can't see a restaurant going in there because it restricts food preparation. But yeah, alcohol is in the PUD language, and it would follow the laws of restaurants where you have to sell more food than booze, basically.
Right. And Matt, is this zoned for that type of thing, or is that why we're here?
That's why we're here. It would require this zoning.
Okay, so what can be placed in that lot right now? What is it zoned?
That property is zoned SF5. Yeah, it's zoned single family, which means it allows a single family home. You can also put a church on single family zoning or a school, but very, very limited, not a business, not an apartment complex, things like that.
Aaron, I don't have any questions for the agent, but I do have one for Councilmember Johnson, if that's okay.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't answer questions.
Well, whoever, either you or Camila. You guys mentioned that there were some concerns that were brought up. Are you at liberty to share what those concerns are? I know I read the one in the staff report, and I'm curious to talk about that one, but are there others that you can share that you have received?
So everything I've heard pretty much follows the one in the staff report. There were concerns about management of other properties and questions about, although this might seem good, would it be managed properly to stay nice and be a friend to the neighborhood? I don't think I had anything that varied from that. And aside from that, I've not been able to look into specific properties yet. But I intend to.
Okay, thank you.
I could chime in and say, I've been on the job for 5 years, and unfortunately, the applicant's name has been on my nuisance list for 5 years. From neighborhood cleanups to individual people concerns to in and out of environmental court to, oh, if they get a letter, then they follow up. on the reactive end as a landlord versus the proactive end. And I'm looking in the chat. It says, is the 55-year-old, I know no, hold on, let me stop. That's not from a DAB member. I'll wait till all DAB questions and concerns, and then we have a public one.
I have a question.
Sir,
This
can you
is
tell me
Tadana.
who your question is for?
The architect. Oh no, possibly Matt. My question is, well, probably Matt, but what's my question? Okay, what about the proposed, not renovation, but the proposal? What about the proposal for senior living makes it required to be changed to multifamily 18 versus single family 5?
Well, within the zoning is right now, the single family 5, you can only have a single family house. I mean, besides a school and church and a couple of civic activities like that, you can't build these apartment type structures that are this dense with, so many people living in one building.
So it's the multiple occupancy thing.
It's that, and then also, they want the opportunity to maybe rent out a couple of the spaces at the old school for personal care services, which personal care is like a barber, salon, something like that. So a commercial type activity.
Very good. I think we've had a good amount of discussion from the DAB. The agent is here, but the applicant is not. At this point in time, I'd love to go ahead and open it up to, and I suspect with all the number of people that are actually online, that's where the bulk of the discussion will probably come from.
Yes, can we please do an orderly fashion and kind of let me call out some names and unmute? I know who lives in the area and who has had the formal complaints already and who's who's biting the talk. So if I could go in this order, I'd appreciate the accommodation since we're all virtual this time.
Thank you, Camila.
Camila, before you do that, could you hit stop share screen so that I could see everybody's face again? There you go. Thank you.
Does that help?
That's perfect.
I'm loving this teamwork. Okay. So needed. Okay. I'm going to my notes section, and if we were in a formal meeting, we would start with neighborhood association presidents or past officers. So I see Deborah Sellers, I see Maxine Bostic, and I see Levanta Williams and Lynn King. Those are the first 4. And I'm just going to call this comments from the public. So if you have a question, we'll take them. And so just know that your question will be documented. If it's even for the applicant who's not here, they will still go in the notes from the DAB and be sent on.
Camila, you want to pick somebody first?
Sure, if Miss Deborah or Miss Lynn King are current officers that I know of.
I've lived over here, I'm Deborah Sellers, and I've lived over here for 30 years. And there are many questions about this gentleman and his management skills and so forth. We're always having complaints from him on his said properties, several just up the street from me. I just feel that we are moving in a time where we're progressing forward for new things, helping our young people to have better programs in our neighborhoods so they can do some good things. And this doesn't allow for that. We didn't speak with this gentleman. We have no ideas about his plan, not before this. Most of us did not, as homeowners, did not receive any information as to what was going on with this. But as a homeowner that has been here for a number of years, it has been my hope that that property would be developed in a way to fill the interest for our changing young people that's coming about from here, from the elementary schools around as to the college. So many things are changing at WSU, and I think that our neighborhood and our children should be able to embark upon a good future to stay in our community and make it better.
Deborah, what type of issues do you have with the particular developer or a case that's in front of us?
Several years ago, some of the property, he was using it kind of like as a dump from the other properties, and he would come over and dump the property on the curb to wait for the trash service to come pick it up. And it was such an eyesore. It was terrible.
All right,
Can I ask if that's it from Miss Deborah, Miss Lynn King, do you want to unmute yourself? And we can always go back, Miss Deborah, if you think of something else. I just want to keep the flow going.
No, please go ahead.
Okay, I'm Lynn King, and I've been in the neighborhood for about 33 years. And a lot of changes has been going on, you know, and I'm all for, you know, upgrading or whatever, but I'm curious about this place that is building over here. Is it going to be a single level, or is it going to be, you know, like a upstairs and downstairs?
The plan says no more than 2 floors, 2 levels.
2 levels?
Yes, ma'am, for the apartment section.
Okay, and then they're parking. I mean, I was trying to look at your little picture to see how the parking and stuff was going to be. You know,
it basically kind of goes around the building like a U shape. If you think of the current structure, like that parking lot that there is kind of still there, and it just goes around a U around the fencing and then the north part of the property. And so it's the northeast and west side of the property that would have some parking. And we can show you, I can email those to you later too.
Oh, okay. I greatly appreciate that. And, but will they have, you know, by them being senior citizens, I wouldn't know if any of them have cars or whatever, you know, would you think this area be convenient for them because they don't have no store to go to, you know, as far as that's in this area?
Those are just comments you get to keep saying, and we're going to type them up.
Okay. I mean, you know, I just want to make it more, you know, if they do have it, then have it convenient for them. You know, because older people, a lot of times you have your younger people come in and then they'll, you know, have to do the ripping and running for them and going on, you know, and then will that bring in more younger people? Will they stay there, or would they, even though that y'all said that it's a single family, when you say a single family, how many people is that in the house? Y'all can see, I mean, you know, is there a number? Do anybody know?
Well, just to kind of help a little interpretation, it would be like a senior citizen being able, someone 55 or older, not senior citizen, someone 55 or older may rent the apartment. And from what you're saying, they may have like a young person running errands for them. That's the only thing we can speak on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's pretty much it. Will it be, is it a good location for them, to have that for the senior citizens? Because we have a lot of senior citizen places around, pretty much in the area. I miss the old school. I just remember when it was Carter. My kids went to school over there. Mhm. So
me-
that was only my concern is, how high will it be, by it's being in that area, but you said no more than 2 levels high?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay, you don't know if he's gonna have it 2 levels high, or is he just gonna build it 1 level?
If that's the maximum based
Okay.
on the report.
Okay, that he can do. Okay.
So, Ms. King, as of right now, are you supportive of this development or are you not supportive?
I'm a little bit supportive of it, but I think that you should also let the homeowners in the area, because a lot of homeowners over here don't even know anything about it. I just found out about this Saturday. So it would be nice if I don't know if y'all can send letters out to them, or how do you do it, that so they can be aware of it, other homeowners.
Can I stop and say, Matt, can we still just clarify for the public that the regular, I should say, formality of mailing within 200 feet of the property was done, but an extensive conversation or any reach out to the entire neighborhood association does not seem like it took place?
The letters definitely took place. I don't know about any public meeting that would have happened with the applicant. That's correct.
You said letters was sent out?
If you live within 200 feet. So people, that's the mandate. I see someone shaking their head, but there is a listing that was provided from either a county or a county site of 200 feet that the applicant had to mail. But you're up next, Ms. Bostic, because you're saying, no, you didn't get your letter.
I didn't get no letter neither. I'm down the
Are
street
you
from Miss
200 feet?
I'm right here up on Vesta. If you're going for Shocker.
Well, I'll look at it later and call you.
Okay. Yeah, but I didn't get no letter. And that's it.
He's on mute.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Ms. Bostic, you were muted. I saw you talking.
Am I unmuted?
Yep, we hear you.
All right. My name is Maxine Bostic, and I'm a longtime citizen and community resident of Kenmar community. I've lived and worked, raised, my husband and I raised children, 5 of them in this community for more than 45 years. We moved here in the late 60s. We watched the transition of the community, its residents, its schools, from great to an embarrassment, much because of this landowner. She owns every old house that she can buy. She buys and sells it to anybody who has dollars. Whether I have a hole in my front window from one of her residents who shot in my house because she rents to drug dealers. She rents to anybody who can drag her the first payment. And I have called the city. I have called the city. I have emailed the city. I have emailed the health department. We care deeply about this community. I'm gravely concerned about the latest request to have an emergency meeting, that it was drummed up. Deborah Lynch, who lives right across the fence, wasn't even notified, she and her husband. Mr. Brown next door was not notified. They're both within 200 feet. We are not in agreement with the potential purchase of this old Carter school. at 4640 East 15th Street North. All of her properties have become eyesores. They have, across the street from me, I have had to report people making meth and causing a meth fire and having to call her properties, call the fire department to put out a meth fire, drainage being improper, kids out from the basement, people getting sick, coming over and telling me, Maxine, how do we call the city? Because this woman will not fix the basement. And they drain the water on the sidewalk, and little kids are running up and down the street, and this, you know, this water, you call a number, just a waste of time. The current applicant to request a zoning change for the rental properties, it does not meet the needs of the community as a school or center. Really, in research, Carter School was built in 1941, and it qualifies as a
historical site.
A historical site, and we're looking into that too. I've reported the renters for selling drugs, shooting in homes. I have evidence here. I've had the police out here measuring gambling parties. I mean, actually had this properties playing basketball. I've had to put legal stops in my driveway to keep them from using my driveway as a run through. Harboring renters, I'm on the bicycle pedestrian board, and one of the renters, I counted 15 bags of trash in the backyard because they don't pay for trash service. We report it, just a waste of time until she can get them out. They don't pay, and then she gets somebody else in there. I've contacted the police department to lodge formal complaints against rental properties. Inhabitants have brought down, they've lived, and it will bring down community quality and its potential that those people that are online have lived and invested in this community for more than 40 years. I'm a long-time retired educator. I'm a counselor of public schools. I care deeply about children and families. I understand people have fallen on hard times. Everybody needs a place to call home. It's unfortunate that this community seems to have been hit harder than many. I've worked with many members to craft a plan that would revitalize Old Carter School as a community center, not with a liquor hole. The parking should not inhibit and cause problems to people lining up on the street so we can't use the street. We have places right down the street on 13th that can legally sell liquor. And this place is not zoned for it because we didn't buy houses to have a liquor hole right next door. I humbly request your consideration. I believe that it would be wise to ask zoning applicant to provide records of any complaints from Better Business Bureau, from the police department, from the real estate commission, that will confirm that their intentions are favorable to Kenmar community. I asked for plans to formally engage with Kenmar community, that they have greatly benefited from it in the past. I'd like for anyone to buy the property to be a good partner for the community, to listen to our desires, wishes, and dreams before purchasing it. LRE has done a brief property search. It's clearly evident that they are rental property owners and have used convenience of ownership to get more personal income that will continue to rob the Kenmar community of the great community it once was. I have provided a copy of their current property and submit this address as rental property. They have not had daily business being contracted until they put this thing in place. Because I walked the area, I talked to the neighbors. Most of the neighbors didn't even get anything in the mail notifying them. I walked around and passed out the information. This is wrong. And you're trying to do an emergency meeting to keep the people from being informed that have paid taxes. For the people in MAPD and city council, we pay their salaries and the police department. And what do we get? A rezoning to get this mess. And this we object to.
Ms. Bostic, I have to pause and ask you, just for record keeping, is this emergency meeting something that was through MAPD
Yes.
or this
Yes.
for the neighborhood
Yes. And
applicant?
I learned about the meeting tonight from Levanta. She asked me if I knew about it. She found out about it on Facebook. I've lived here longer than anybody on this thing. And most of the people I've talked to, none of them, one other person got a notice, and it wasn't the family across the street.
Okay, I just want to clarify, it's not the emergency meeting. We just need to go back and look.
I know, but I read you the same thing because I talked to a lawyer about it, and I just read you what I have submitted. But I sent this to Brenda. I sent it to the mayor. I sent it to everybody in the city council. I didn't know the man was leaving. I just heard about it. So as a taxpayer, we feel like we deserve better than rezoning. We don't want to be rezoned for this kind of imposition on our community.
Thank you. I need to ask for Levanta to speak, but before you speak, Levanta, Matt, we're just making just the note that if we could look at the 200 feet, the addresses for those 200 feet, then I can help compare that to the current officers we have. And I know that you're not the case holder, that it's Philip. So I'll follow up with Philip also. So for the DAB members to know, the typical 200 feet rule still took place. This is not an emergency meeting. This was just when residents were notified who may not have gotten that 200 feet letter. I just want to clarify.
Yeah, and Camila, if I could clarify for just 1 second. So I've been looking at our files on this, and because this project is over 5 acres, the list of residents we sent the notice to is actually 350 feet. And so and that's 350 feet from the outsides of this property, and we send it to the property owner. And so looking at that list, I can share this with you, Camila. But we sent letters to, it looks like 50, 60 residents around there. But I can get you that so we can verify that. And then on the public notice, it does say emergency meeting on there, but I just want to clarify that I believe that has to do with state statutes and how the Planning Commission is run. And since we're doing a virtual meeting and giving people the opportunity to go to Century 2 to participate in that meeting, we have to specify that it's an emergency meeting and we're running under a little bit different rules. But besides that, this is just the normal meeting for how zoning changes occur. So
Deborah Lynch is on right now, and she lives less than 200 feet from the fence, and she got nothing. And
okay.
She's right there. They didn't receive one. I just talked to her.
And I can look into that. We do have her on the list, so something must have happened to the letter if she did not receive it. So I apologize for that.
Well, it's too late.
We could go. I have to keep us going. Miss Levanta.
I'll quickly go through some of my concerns. And I definitely would say that this is not something that would fit into the neighborhood plan. Holy Savior was the owner of the property at one point. And so I have no idea if they really understand or know what is being proposed for this particular area. But having something that is 55 and over is not what is needed in that community. If you were to tell me a grocery store, if you were to tell me some other things that help move a community forward, I understand that. But the person who is applying for this, and I am very against this. When I found out, I just found out later this afternoon, and I was a little bit livid because this is a person who during my tenure as city council did have, I have no idea how many homes she had, but most of those homes had trouble in them. So much so that when the chief came and we were having some shootings in the community, most of them were from her homes. And at that point, he decided to come up with an ordinance that says if a property owner cannot maintain discipline within their rental properties, then they are the ones that are going to be contacted and they will be the ones who are punished. That happened in some of her homes. So this is not a fit. You may doctor it up, you may make it look pretty, but it is not going to be pretty. You haven't given us enough information. How many people is she planning on putting into this facility? You're saying 55 and older. What's to say this 55-year-old grandmother doesn't have her kids come and stay with her? There have been many cases in our communities where someone has come in and shown you the plans that you would love to see, but have not followed through. I do not trust what has happened in our community with her before. And that is why you see people that are untrusting of her right now. And that is because she showed her true colors before. And this opportunity came along for her to purchase this and to give us this fantastic idea of what it could be, and it's not there. Again, I don't know all the specifics. I don't know how many people are going to be in there. Think back, Primrose was supposed to be really beautiful at that time too. And that's what happened. So you're going to end up with everybody staying in those apartments because I don't think we're going to hold her accountable. We haven't held her accountable before. And so I do not see how this property can be turned over to a person that has not cared about her rental properties or any of the properties that she has sold, but it's only to move into communities that possibly could use more services. We stay in this community because we want to. We stay in this community because we love this community. So for someone to come in and do some of the things that she has done is unprofessional to me. And that is why I am so against this. And that is because you run a home where a chief comes in and immediately says, because of you, we will say that if there are incidents in rental homes, we are going to start holding the owner of the home accountable. So that's the kind of person that we have coming in. I know that Ms. Lynch is on. She has not heard anything. There are too many ifs. There are too many things in the air for this to work. So everything has not been presented. You're talking about parking. You haven't presented a parking detail for me. You're talking about people living in. And then another thing to say, oh, we're going to serve alcohol. What is that? Is that to make us happy? Because you're going to serve alcohol? No, that's not what we live there for. We live here to have the same quality of living and the same quality of life as anybody else. And so this totally offends me and totally makes me angry. And then to bring up the liquor part, that just blew me over the top. So no, I see no use for this type of a place in our community. And I definitely would not want to see it there. I'll take any questions if you have those.
Thank you, Lavonda.
So this is Camila unmuting. Some of you in the Livonia area are in this private chat. So I sent you a question. I need you to get in the private chat part. You don't have to get publicly, and share with me your phone number and email. So as Councilmember Johnson, I and the planner get more information, we can forward it directly to you. Again, I do not have all of your emails in front of me right now. I need your emails and phone numbers. And also in the chat is some good conversation. Someone said, a DAB member, that they contacted the diocese and to ask them about their opinion on this, and we can email that back out to the public. We can make a note that we'll add it as an adjustment to these minutes and get that report sent out too.
Thanks, Camila. Hey, Matt, real quick, when we get done with public comment, can you talk about the proper way to file a complaint? We're taking notes right now in minutes from this meeting, but just to make sure all the residents know how they can officially file that complaint.
Yep, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
And I would hope that Miss Deborah Lynch would be able to say something. She lives right across the street. So you have so many people who may have received it, but you said only 50 people received it. I tend to think that there's more than 50 people that are within that 350 mat. I'm not trying to say that you did anything wrong, but there are so many people. That is such a tight knit community that it seems that there would have been more than 50 people that would have been contacted. But I know Miss Lynch lives right across the street. And I definitely, especially those that would be in direct contact of that building, would have some issues with it as well.
Right, that's phone making the chime.
I'm here and I'm willing to speak.
Go ahead, Miss Lynch.
Thank you. Yes, this is our first hearing about this. I'm sorry, but yes, I'm angry too. And all I need to know is who we need to contact and what laws protect us from certain people buying property in our area, since we are aware of their history. And we know that it's a possibility that that could become an eyesore. We've dealt with enough situations that have occurred over there, and like people buying the property and removing the playground stuff and just leaving the area and then destroying the teeter-totters that have been there for what, a million years, and so that nobody can use them, and leaving everything just the way they left it, a big mess. We've had several complaints about the activities that have taken place over there. Like someone mentioned earlier, that even with the rezoning, there's still not going to be enough parking, and they're going to take up parking that belongs to the residents over here, or block our driveways or whatever. And if they have activities, Lord help us all, if they have any type of activities over there, not to mention the littering and the trash that we've had to complain about. And I can't remember the last time I've seen a policeman drive through this area. So if anything happened, it would take a while for them to get over here. I've had to wait 45 minutes in my house when I came home one time, and the door was unlocked and open, wanting the police to come check the house before I came in. I had to wait 45 minutes. So I can only imagine what it's going to be like if we have any trouble over there. I'm in agreement with anybody who wants to vote against this and do whatever we have to do to keep this from happening. I'm on board. No rezoning. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Lots of good conversation. Anybody else want to speak?
I'm going to unmute and say you have a public comment that talks about another area that it says, I believe neighborhood concerns and potential issues are valid, especially with adding more people density to this area. We have had the same issues with the current existing single family residents and occupants, many renters. The strength is in your neighborhood association, city ordinance, and law enforcement. How do we give collaboration and support to these organizations? Are we afraid of seniors or their relations? So that will be noted as a comment.
That person doesn't live over here.
And they said that.
Right.
They said we've had it in our area.
Right.
Very good. Just Been lots of good conversation. I'm tempted to go ahead and bring this back to the DAB. Just by looking at some of the chats and that type of stuff, move this forward. I'll move that we actually reject the proposal.
I second that.
Thank you, Jesus.
Very good. Is there...
Matt and Aaron, before we vote, can I ask a question and then make a comment?
Yeah.
Councilmember Johnson, this isn't the first time since I've been on DAB that we've had questions and concerns about the radius in which letters go out to property owners. And I remember one of our conversations last year or in the fall about it. Who makes that decision? Is that a city, county thing, or is that a state thing that says what the range is that you have to do it? And if it is a state thing, can the city or county add additional, like I think hearing the community, and I'm going to be honest, I don't live in the community, so in that neighborhood, but hearing those concerns, right, to me was, where was the failure in the system? Was it because we're only bound to the 250, the 200, the 350? Why are those the limitations and not the impact of the entire neighborhood itself? So that's my first question. Then I have a follow-up for that one as well.
I hope you wrote down the follow-up.
I did. I got it in my head. Oh, I'm ready.
Good. So state law is the 200 feet, but the city council can't actually increase that. We were talking about that. The meeting you're talking about was when we discussed places for people. And that was something I brought up at the workshop. Was that a council? Yeah, workshop. My frustration with the 200 foot, because in a situation like this, while some of the neighbors would get that, it wouldn't go far enough. So I still support 1,000 feet. That's a conversation that I think will come up as we go through more of the places for people. I haven't been told we'll just change that just outright, but I think as a part of our changing of the zoning structure for that could potentially come up. I haven't heard from our colleagues if there's disagreement on the 1,000 feet. There was concerns because the developers have to pay for the mailing, so they would have to mail more. I care more about what the neighborhood thinks, so that would just be a conversation to have with them, but that should be happening more so this year. But this conversation is something I will use when it comes back up to talk about the frustration neighbors feel in various parts of this district. Yeah. Because the lot sizes in this area is different than like Lambsdale. And my argument was more for Lambsdale. This area, you can get, maybe 3 or 4 properties with that. Lambsdale, those front yards are 150 feet. So if you go 200 feet, you're only getting 2 neighbors. So right. To me, it should change, but we'll continue to have that conversation.
And I appreciate that.
I also say that you have a lot of renters and in the area. So a letter could go to the owner and not to the renters. Well, the owner doesn't care because they don't live there. And so you have that occasion that happens as well.
And that was the point I was going to bring up, Councilwoman Williams, that, right, like, I know Danielle brought it up last year when we talked about this as well, right, property owners may live in California and Texas, be nowhere near where the impact of this will be, that there's value, in my opinion, of if you're physically living in that space near that neighborhood in which a disruption of a rezoning or a construction or whatever could impact a couple months, whatever it is, to build this thing. Like, I feel like you should have the right to be able to, A, be notified that it's going to happen, and then B, have the opportunity to participate in the engagement of the conversation of what that impact will be from there. My follow-up question, and you kind of answered it earlier about what council support looks like from there. I think going to the comment you made about, right, is it the applicant's the one who has to pay for it? To me, right, that seems like the price of business. If you want to rezone and build something, that seems like the price of business to do it, and you should be on the hook for notifying the people in which you're going to enter their community for and their neighborhood for. It to me just has to be an expectation and a new direction in which the city should take in engaging in these conversations of rezoning. The follow-up was, because I know that our zoning is also city and county, does the county have to also say anything about expanding that, or that solely could be a city decision to say, we're going to require an expansion of the number of people you send it to?
It's a great question. I don't know if Matt knows the answer. I've never asked that. I've just kind of said what I wanted to see. So,
And I appreciate that.
I know that the distance is different in the city and the county, but I'm not sure of the technicalities of how that gets changed.
yeah, we'll get back to you on that. I mean, it's something I want to see happen anyway. I think 200 feet is ridiculous. I've thought that for
7
some time.
yards.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
Aaron,
Yes.
and I also want to make a comment, Brandon, that's why I believe at the city council meeting, one of them last month, MAPD or People in Places made the proposal that standard changes do not have to go to DAB or to city council, and that's a bad idea. You see
Terrible
on this
idea.
conversation tonight, that plan would cut out citizens and taxpayers of their property rights. And so that's a bad idea.
That's right.
I agree. And as that comes forward, just know that our staff works with a lot of interest groups, and the builders were working with the staff, and they felt that was a really good step to take. And of course, you saw what happened at the retreat. I think that's a conversation we're going to continue to have, because again, taking out neighborhood input or opportunities like this, to me, is a bad thing. Everyone wants to know what's going on in their neighborhood. So as that comes up, that's why I asked you all for your feedback on that workshop. I'm going to share that, read those publicly, and then definitely let you all know as that comes before council, before a vote, because that's something we need to all be thinking about as decision makers. We should never take away that opportunity for people to have input.
Right. And would it help if citizens got on the agenda to actually say that?
Can I interrupt, please, as Sergeant Arms? You have a motion on the table. And so if that comment could go into your update section, that would be great. Does that versus the notes for this vote? Because no, it's great discussion. I don't want to end it. I just want to transition it.
What's the motion? I didn't hear it.
The motion to reject.
Okay.
It was moved by Aaron.
Well, to discuss the motion in itself, I'm for rejection. For a lot of what the neighbor said. I've dealt with these certain instances in my own neighborhood, and it's not good when you live next door to nuisance properties or properties that don't reflect the ideals of what you feel like should be for your neighborhood. But also the alcohol was a big one for me. I don't think that we should set an establishment in the middle of a residential area that serves alcohol. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Very good. Is there any other specific conversation about the motion? Very good. We'll go ahead and move on to a vote. All those.
Go by hand again.
All those in favor of rejecting, please raise your hand and say aye.
I need to go by. Everyone's not showing their face, Aaron. So, Aaron, if you could vote.
I vote to reject.
So if you say yes, your vote is rejection. Just know that. If you say yay, aye, it's for rejection. LaWanda?
Aye.
Gabriel?
I proudly say aye.
Seth?
Aye.
Nikayla?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Tadana?
Aye.
Ruben, do you want to unmute and kind of share your concerns as a youth DAB member of what you heard? That was 7-0 of rejecting the recommendation.
Sure. So, I think with the concerns that people have shared, really about just bringing down the like community feel, like making it like having this new development would make it a worse place to live. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think people should like where they live. So if I could vote, I would say reject the rezoning application.
And thank you for your comment in the chat also. We do notice you and want to make sure you have a chance to share your voice as our youth DAB member.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, Matt, so that's 7-0 to reject that. Again, I'll get notes to you guys ASAP.
Okay. And I could talk a little bit about the protest petition that Councilmember Johnson wanted me to talk about. So Camila, I did email you a copy of this, so you might be able to get it out to people on the meeting a little bit easier than I am. But we have an opportunity to fill out a protest petition after it goes to the Planning Commission. And it goes to the Planning Commission on Thursday, the 7th. And then you have 2 weeks to fill out the protest petition, and it has to be turned in to the city clerk by January 21st. And filling out the protest petition, you have to be a landowner within, you have to be anyone can fill out the protest petition, but for it to count, if it's successful, it requires the city council to approve the project by a 3/4 vote as opposed to a simple majority. So there's a stronger threshold for the project to be approved. And to be counted on that official requirement, you have to be a property owner within 200 feet. And you fill out the protest petition. And then if more than 20% of that land in the 200 feet around the project protests, then that would require a stronger vote from city council for the project to be approved. So it is a little complicated, but I sent the information about that and the petition to Camila. So hopefully she can pass that out to anybody that might be interested in that.
I have a question. Is it still 200 feet even though the mailer quote unquote went to 350 feet?
Yeah, it actually is different. The mailer went to 350 feet, but the protest petition is always 200 feet. And if you live outside of that 200 feet, you can still sign the protest petition and we'll still tell people that you protested. It just won't count towards that official 20% threshold.
And the number you said earlier that there was 50 people that makes up that 200?
During the comments, I counted the whole list and there were 111. So it was more than my bad guess was.
So you need 20% of 111 for it to count.
For the protest petition, you need 20% of the land around the property in 200 feet, and it's not 20% of the owners, it's 20% of the land. So it is kind of confusing.
So does that mean it would be less than 20% of 111?
Well, the 111 names was the people that lived within 350 feet. So we're talking about for the protest petition, that's only the closest 200 feet, not 350.
So if I could stop and say, as the community service rep, majority of you, when the meeting would be over, you would stop and you would wait and you would talk to me and Councilmember Johnson. And this would be the comment that I'm going to say on record. I need everyone to call me with their name and email tomorrow, or I will not be able to share this information with you if you don't put it in the chat. And so I'll give a good example. Former Councilmember Lavonta Williams lives outside that 200 area, but she can still sign the petition and support and ask other people in that area to sign it. That's my speech.
I'll add to that speech that this is something that as residents in the neighborhood, the more people you have giving feedback, the council will see all of that. So we'll see the actual what legally counts as that 20%, and we'll see the number of people that protested. We'll also see the issues with that. So I would encourage as many people that feel up to it, sign that petition. And then after you get done with that, you'll learn Thursday when that comes before council. Make sure you email the whole council, not just me, what you think about it, if you support it or not. And then we'll get that. So we'll be able to read through emails. We'll have our minutes from the meeting. And we'll also have the minutes from the petition. So Just wanted to share all of that with you.
May I ask one more question?
Absolutely.
So Matt, so when you come to these meetings and you hear all the feedback, and although MAPD has already recommended to approve, what happens on your part when you go back to work?
So at Planning Commission on Thursday, the public hearing, we'll present the case, and then we will, this was not my case. This is one of my other planners, Philip. So I will let him know about the comments that we got. All of the comments that we got mailed in or emailed to us. We will present that information to the Planning Commission. And then when this eventually goes to City Council, we'll have a staff report from this meeting. We'll have a staff report from the Planning Commission. We'll have all of those emails, and we'll give all of that information to City Council so they know the number of people that had issues with the case. So that they'll get that information before they make their final determination.
Thank you.
Very good. So with that, we will have concluded item number 10, and we will move into updates, issues, and reports. So I guess I'll start just because I'm already talking. I just want to have some little more comments related to the issue that we're talking about related to notifications and mailings and that type of stuff. I know we've talked about increasing the distance, and I certainly could be persuaded to do that. But what I'm kind of concerned with is the fact that it doesn't seem to matter which project we're actually talking about. Without fail, we've got people that are directly next to the property that are homeowners that say they don't actually get the mailing. And that's really concerning. If these mailings are actually going out, just regular mail, and I don't know whether or not people are throwing them away with their junk mail or what, but I'm wondering whether or not it would be appropriate to go ahead and start actually changing that to signature receipt, because checking the box to say that we've actually done what we're supposed to do, we're not doing anything. And we're making the problem worse by not communicating.
I have a question that goes right along with what Aaron was talking about. Those mailers that go out, does the applicant, is it on the honor system for them to go out and pay a company to mail that stuff out to the homeowners? Or is that something that they pay a certain amount of money to and the city does that on their behalf?
Hey, I'll weigh in here, everybody, and I truly appreciate your comments. It's been an eye-opener. I'll just leave it at that, and just appreciate the fact that this client has hired us, so I have to walk a fence here. But yeah, that 200 feet, this happens in my neighborhood all the time also, and the 200 feet isn't enough. And I do this for developers. I've been doing this for 40 years. The 200 feet isn't enough. But to answer the question directly, yeah, I have to get a certified ownership list from the title company. And in this case, it costs about $1,300 or $1,400 to get that list. And the title company delivers that list of certified owners in the radius to the city, in this case, to the planning department. And that's what the planning department uses to send out the mailers. Yeah, there were 111 names on the ownership list. I just looked at it also. And just so you don't have the wrong information, many of your names were on that list. So just take that into consideration if you're trying to justify something. Again, these things come in the mail to my house for zoning changes in my neighborhood, and it has a City of Wichita stamp on the front of it. It looks pretty official. It'd be kind of hard to throw it away when you see something like that, but I would just offer that information to everybody. So there you go.
Very good.
I would, as a staff member, community service rep, we're at a point where the public can't really raise their hand. So I want to speak for the public. Matt and Mike, could we see when the letter was mailed? Like, does the title company have so many days to get it out before these meetings take place?
Yeah, and I can get you the exact date. I believe the letter went out. I got asked this earlier on the 18th or 19th of December. So Mike's correct. You know, the applicant has to pay to get that list of the people that live around them. And the title company creates that official list. So it's the third party. It's not the applicant. It's not the city. The third party creates that list of all of the people that own property within the correct distance. And then they turn that into us. And, you know, we send out a letter to all of those people. When we send that out, we keep record of the list that we sent it to. If any of those letters come back for any reason, we keep those returned letters on file. So we have a record of, you know, maybe the address was wrong or somebody moved or whatever reason they would have come back in the mail. But we try to keep record of all of that, and all of that information is available and we can look into that. I would say, you know, people often complain that renters don't get a letter. And that's because the statute doesn't require us to send a letter to the actual property. We send it to the address that's on file for the owner of the property. And, you know, that's something the council members can talk about and think if that needs to change, but hopefully that clarifies a little bit of that.
Is there a cutoff date for when that has to be mailed? You know, like it has to be postmarked 4 weeks prior to the planning meeting or whatever.
Yeah, that's not me that sends those letters, but we have, you know, there's 3 parts of the public notice. There's the sign in the yard. And so in this case, because the property's so large, you know, it needs probably 4 signs. It needs 1 sign on each street frontage. So maybe a normal single family house would just have 1 sign in the front yard, but because this one's so large, it probably had 4. Then there's a notice in the newspaper that says this case is coming up. And, you know, I'm sure like everybody else, I have no idea where that's at in the newspaper and no one really reads that section, but that's where we put it at. And then we also send the letters. The notice in the paper and the letter, I think it has to be 20 days before the public hearing. There is a specific date that it has to go out by. So we, you know, if we write something wrong in the letter or if we didn't send it to the right people, we're required to start the whole process over. Even if it's already gone to Planning Commission, we have to do it all over again. So we're very strict about making sure all of that information is correct.
Very good. So I'm done with my questions. Seth, you've had some questions. Are there any updates that you've got before we tag somebody else?
I was just going to offer, this is Mike Seibert again. I was going to offer some more information here. The signage on the property, I'd encourage someone maybe to drive by and make sure those signs are still there. There were pictures sent to me when the signs were mounted, and it was way before Christmas. They are posted on the chain link fence on both the Pershing Street side and the 15th Street side. So you might want to, someone might want to go by and make sure those are still up there. But this particular property only has 2 street frontages. So there were only 2 signs posted. The north and east edges of the property are adjacent people's backyards, Joe, just so you know.
Aaron, I don't have any updates, but I did want to thank everybody that joined in this meeting tonight to voice their concerns for this project. I really appreciated hearing that.
Great. Anybody else want to be next?
Danielle, no updates.
Very good. Thank you.
Lawanda, no updates, but I too thank the community for chiming in. It makes our job a lot easier.
Donna? Or Nikayla?
No updates.
Very good. Gabriel?
No updates, but I have a question or two. Again, I apologize, friends. I know it's late.
All good.
Councilmember Johnson, when will the city?
Gabe,
Oh, yes.
Real quick.
Yes.
Ruben, we know you have school tomorrow. Do you have any updates or concerns?
Good job.
Actually, I still have another week of break.
Never mind then. You can just
He's staying up late.
But I guess with the vaccines coming out, there's reports of people still getting COVID after they get the vaccine. So I guess keep wearing masks, keep social distancing, even if you've gotten the vaccine. Other than that, I don't really have anything.
Very good.
So my question is, when will the council get?
Oh, sorry, Gabriel.
Oh, no, you're fine. When will the council be able to, will actually vote on the proposal from the planning department?
Places for people?
Yes.
I don't have a date that's coming back yet. Normally we have a workshop like we did. If council has a bunch of questions or issues, staff goes back, reworks that with the other groups they were working with, and Bob will shop it around before it comes to a council meeting. So I haven't heard from Bob yet. So I think staff is still working on all of that.
Do you think that they would consider, I know that you talked about they met with a couple of people to come up with a recommendation. Was there ever a thought to come up with a group of citizens to ask about what those ideas might be and whether or not they would be good ideas for the people instead of the people who need to do it, who want it to do business, whether that be, a representative from every DAB or something to be able to talk about their ideas and their proposal and to offer up from a citizen perspective, not saying that the people who are doing business aren't, but from a citizen perspective, what those impacts might be or mean or be for the regular day-to-day people? Or was that not a thought that you think they had?
Yeah, and Matt can jump in at some point. When he does, I'll show you something. But this Places for People has been a 3 or 4 year effort and started off fully citizen engagement. So I went to, I think, 2 of these workshops since I joined council. The first one, I believe, was a kickoff at Evergreen. So I was there, and we started with a lot of citizen engagement to get to where we're at. One was the educational piece of what Places for People was, and then 2, kind of what it meant here, what that looked like zoning wise. And in the middle of all of that, staff was also working with interest groups. So the builders who would do a lot of building and development, housing work, they met with them. I can't think of all the other groups right now. It's a bunch of acronyms, but staff met with them and people, regular citizens, came up with basically this last recommendation. There's a few things in between that came to council. And in between that, they're still taking citizen feedback. When I brought up the developers, it was because at the workshop, the WABA president was actually on the call speaking to some of that. I know they had a lot of heavy input on the land bank piece, as well as what development kind of means for Places for People, kind of gaining their interest in what does it look like to develop, what they develop in this type of manner, but also talking with neighborhoods. Right now, we're more in that citizen piece. So whenever we do a retreat, we put it out there for the public and we seek public input on that before council actually votes on it. So right now, as many people as they want, I've tried to share that link. I sent it to you all. I just tell people, if you have thoughts on this, please let me know. Let me know if I was off base in my concerns. Just let us know. So yeah, the more feedback we can get, the better. I don't know if I missed anything, Matt.
No, I would just say that you mentioned DAB representatives. I remember working with Councilmember Williams at the very beginning of this project, probably 3 or 4 years ago, where there was a committee that was put together and there were representatives from several different neighborhood associations and the different DABs, and then different community members that kind of created the initial plan. And then, we went out to the public several times. And like Councilmember Johnson said, we're seeking public input now. Before this goes to council, we're going to be offering to come to different neighborhood associations. We'll be coming to the different DABs. We're going to be getting even more input. So this is far over, and we're definitely looking to hear what you're saying. And I was going to email the project manager on this project tonight, just hearing your comments, just to kind of fill her in, because it's important that everybody hears that.
Awesome. Thank you. And that is all I have, Aaron.
Very good. Thank you very much. I think that Tadana is the only DAB member we haven't heard closing statements from.
Just wanted to remind the community about Books and Breakfast. We took Christmas off, but we wanted to let everybody know we'll be back up and running this Saturday, the 9th, from 10 to 11:30. You can come to St. Paul AME, 1756 North Piatt. We serve a hot meal, and we also give a free bag of food. You also can pick up a free book. So we hope you join us. It's to-go style. Just stay in your car and we will bring the food to you. We operate every second and fourth Saturday of the month.
Fantastic mission. Excellent. All right, so I made motions. We're down towards adjournment.
I have a couple, I'm sorry, I have a couple things.
All right.
Midnight.
Okay, sure. I'll talk really, really slow. Please remember that DAB meetings will be held virtually from now until March, until our community is safe again for us to either come back hybrid, fully, or half together again. And this Saturday is the District 1. I'm calling it Saturday discussion since we have no food, but the former District 1 breakfast is this Saturday. Please join in at 9:30. We will have preliminary conversation from the census staff, local census staff, and then Councilmember Johnson can share some other updates. And to me, that would be a great platform for you to get more people to come in and talk about this conversation, for us to talk about the Peoples for Places part. I can put that link when I send the reminder. I'll make a note for the breakfast for people to read up on that and just kind of have some more in-depth conversation. So please come back to the table so those notes can be taken. Trying to think if there's anything else. Oh, if you know anybody, the LEAP application that meet the federal poverty guideline levels, basically, then you qualify for LEAP 2021. And if you got LEAP in 2020, the city is offering a $50 credit towards your water bill. So call your neighborhood resource centers or water department about that information. And sorry, but midnight does not sound good, Councilmember Johnson.
Hey, Aaron, I have one more thing I forgot to say earlier, and I apologize for extending the meeting, but a few of you have been interested in an update from University Plaza Apartments. And I just wanted to let you know that Camila and I and our city attorney, Jennifer Magana, went over there last week, and we toured the facility. The property management group was open to opening up various rooms, not just handpicked. And we saw the conditions that were there. While they have improved from what it was when I first saw it, I still have concerns about how quickly we can get the pest out of the living condition for the residents. But the residents have reported that the property management team has been more responsive since we got involved. The residents have also been more engaged with the management team, mainly because now they're reporting responses. Before they were reporting that the management team was not responding to them. So that's going on. The blatant things that we saw when we first or second trip there with the power room being unlocked, all the keys there, access to high voltage stuff that could kill you. All of that's been locked up. So that was good. Elevator looks the same. I did notice they were cleaning a little more than before, so floors were getting mopped. And past that, some of the needs have been met. So the resident who needed the mattresses, those have been delivered. I think water's on in all of the rooms now. Hot water was an issue initially. It's still an issue on how long it takes to get hot, but Camila, correct me if I'm wrong. I think every unit now does have access to both hot and cold water.
Yes.
Okay, so that's going on. They now have all of our contact information. We've talked about making sure they stay in contact with us for resources. I do know there's another group that has also been talking with residents, and some would like to get out of there as well. So that group, I believe, is helping facilitate that process. I am going to stay in contact with Levanta, being a member of the NAACP, and others who are interested in helping out. But I can report that they are more responsive now. Some of those needs are being met, but again, as I told them, I'm still concerned about the present living condition of the folks there and how quickly that can get fixed. We expressed that to them. They do have an attorney, so I won't say everything, but yeah, the attorney reached out to me, I think a week after all of this broke, but they are being more responsive now. If that changes, I'll definitely let you all know. For those of you who don't know, it's in the Matlock Heights Neighborhood Association where that's going on, the old Calvary Towers. So that's my update on that. Again, we're going to keep working on it, but we still have a lot more work to do, and we will be holding them accountable to all of the things they need to get fixed. I don't know the time frame on that. It's going to take more investment than the numbers that we heard to actually fix that property. And again, making sure that the residents there are treated fairly and equitably will be our key push.
Very good.
Can someone, as in Seth or Councilmember Johnson, check Facebook comments since we're kind of towards the end to see if there's anything? We
Don't
see
see
a
anything.
comment, Levanta.
I don't see anything on Facebook.
Thank you for checking, team. You all should get certificates for being IT support during DAB.
Very good. What a wonderful thing that we've got this much participation and a community involvement. Local government at its best. That said, anybody willing to go ahead and make a motion?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Camille, I'm certain it was unanimous. Everybody have a great evening.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.